Oh, yes?
Do you live or work with a narcissist?
Oh, that'd be ridiculous.
Is the headline which I'm looking at.
What's that got to do with me?
Differently interesting extra time communion for minicab drivers,
Take the money and sit back down again.
breastfeeding mums,
Oh, you've not been giving it its breakfast again, have you?
and people disturbed by urban foxes engaged in the act of lovemaking behind their bins.
Anybody there?
The two Mikes. Overworked, overweight, overpaid, overnight. On Talk Sport.
At school, I was known as Britannica because of my extensive knowledge.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very good morning to the shrinking Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. And did you hear in the news that we've had a reception today for the King of Spain?
Well, not only did I hear it in the news, I was aware of it all day because
Were
the
you?
King of Spain and his wife have been here all day.
Yes, that's
They
right.
had a change of the guard for
Yes,
him.
that's right.
They had a bit of sort of, toing and froing before, by the way, they unveiled, without your mate Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One shindig
Yes,
at
that's
Trafalgar
right.
Square.
That's right.
So the centre of London's actually been very busy while you've been mooching around down in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
Well, yeah, I haven't actually. I've been reading my journals
Have
and
you?
all this kind of stuff. But anyway, what I thought I should point out to you,
Yeah,
talking
go on.
about the King of Spain.
Welcome to the King of Spain, by the way.
Welcome to the King
Buenos
of Spain.
dias.
But he's a young-looking chap, isn't he?
He is quite young.
He's the new King of Spain.
His wife's quite young as well.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
No, she is.
Now then, what about the old King of Spain?
Well, King Carlos, Juan Carlos.
Yeah, Juan Carlos. Right. Do you know that he's now officially the biggest Rogerizer in the history of European royal families?
Is he really?
Yeah.
Well, more than the Duke of Edinburgh.
Yeah, more than... Well, come on.
Are you
The
sure?
Duke of Edinburgh is a man who has led an
I'm talking about his early life.
Oh, his early life,
His
right,
early
before
life.
he got married,
Yeah.
Well, listen to this. Here. No, honestly, I couldn't believe it when I picked up this report in one of my journals.
Yeah.
It says Juan Carlos, the former King of Spain, is a sex addict.
What?
Who had hundreds of relationships even after marrying Queen Sophia.
Right.
According to a new book about to be published.
Blimey.
Before his marriage...
Hang on,
in
who's written the book, though? Because it has to be it has to be an author that we believe. It's not written by old Paul Breen Turner, is
No.
it? Floating about down in Gibraltar.
Been written by some great European royalist, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it says, before his marriage in 1962, Juan Carlos, who's now 79 and still alive, satisfied his needs with an astonishing variety of women.
Right.
It is claimed by Amadeo...
It doesn't make him a bad guy.
Hang on, it is claimed by Amadeo Martinez Ingles, who says in his book, Juan Carlos I...
It's Juan Carlos.
He's Juan Carlos I, the king of 5,000 lovers. That's the Spanish interpretation. It is to be published in September.
Right.
The author cites reports by Franco's spies.
Okay.
So this goes as far back as when Franco was running the place.
I told you when I went to San Sebastian with my parents back in the 70s.
Yeah.
My dad was nearly arrested for wearing a swimming costume on the promenade.
Oh, right, okay.
By the half a hat
Yeah.
police.
I remember actually when we first went to Mallorca as a
Because
family.
Franco was still in charge.
Yeah, exactly. When we first went to Mallorca, you know, as a family, the bloke who was the waiter in the restaurant had just finished 2 years national service for Franco.
Yes.
And the girl who was the waitress said, "Oh, I'm so unhappy." I said, "Why? My husband, he has gone off to serve Franco." You know, that's what everybody
Presumably
did.
you then went off to serve her, did you?
Well, I was only about 12 at the time,
were you?
so I didn't know.
Normally that would be your style. then.
Absolutely. The author cites reports by Franco's spies which said that the future king had 332 sexual relationships whilst he was a soldier at the military academy.
Blimey.
And it was said by one of his senior officers, that's good for any actor specialising in porn films. It's about 4 a week.
That's not bad. That is not bad.
So he's having 4 different lovers a week when he was training to be an army officer.
Well, he was waiting to be was he the king in waiting at that point?
He was the king in exile, actually, because they'd never all family.
Well,
and
because
was
Franco
there.
wasn't allowing it.
That's right. And it says, on the eve of a state visit to Britain by his son, King Philippe, and Queen Letizia, reports about the book will be unwelcome publicity. But it goes on
But is
to...
it not possible that, given the way that Franco and some of these dictators like to control the lives of people that they see as their enemies, could they not have all been sort of spies that had been put in there to try and extricate information from him?
Well, maybe there could have been, I don't know. But I mean, if you get right to the end of this report, there's a whole list of Spanish actresses who have fallen prey to his roving eye. servants and sort of those who attend the royal family.
Indeed.
And regular danger of being Rogerised by the king.
Shocking.
I mean, very, very sort of medieval, really. But
not presumably, when you say he was in exile, while he was being sort of attended to, he couldn't have been getting extra, portions, as it were, while he was in the mess, if you don't mind me saying so.
Well, he was, because, I mean, it's a bit like if we suddenly had a Republican sort of government here. If Mr Corbyn got in, said scrap the royal family. Yeah. But nevertheless...
But then, say, for example, Prince Harry was in the army.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is,
Are you saying that Prince Harry would have been Rogerising himself crazy, knowing that he wasn't going to ever be king?
Well, no, because, you see, they always said that they would restore the monarchy and all that kind of stuff when Franco died, and everybody thought that was going to happen. So, really, they were always a king in waiting, you know what I mean? So, but I mean, fascinating that a man can attend to his royal duties and still be getting leg overism 4 times a week.
But to be fair, this is
a lot of people have leg overism 4 times a week.
It's not that unusual.
Usually to the same woman. This was to This was to 4 different women every week, and every week there were 4 different women to the week before.
Yeah. I mean, are you saying that you've never had 4 times in a week with somebody different?
No, I don't think so. Don't think
Not in your life?
Unless I was on holiday in Benidorm or somewhere like that, and it could have been 10. But you
10?
Lost count, didn't you?
10?
Yeah.
Bit ambitious.
You could go for 4 in the same night in those days. Yeah, well,
it's steady.
Night started at sort of 1 o'clock in the morning and at 7:30 on the beach.
Yes,
it,
Well, so you say.
Yes, absolutely.
I remember you told that charming tale of you and the German girl.
Oh, the German girl
in the sand.
Yeah, Donnerumblitzen.
Yeah, shocking. Well, I didn't know there were 2 of them.
No. See,
anyway, now, listen, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got the trillion-ton iceberg that's broken off the west of Antarctica.
Yeah, but it hasn't.
The ice shelf. What do you mean it hasn't? There's pictures of it. It is. There's a bloody great... Look, there's a great chasm. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a crack. It's a crack. How deep is that crack?
Well, how deep is your love? I mean, it's going to go on forever and ever and ever.
Rubbish.
It's deep enough. That is a picture that's taken. Look at the engine of the aeroplane to show you the size and the scale.
Yeah, that's just a load of...
These are engines that you could stand in, and they're larger than the man.
No,
right? You could drive a lorry into these engines, and they are dwarfed by the size of the crack.
Yeah,
the biggest crack I've ever seen.
This is, I'm afraid, this is the Climate Change Brigade, who have aeroplanes flying all around the world, all the time, 24 hours a day, looking for so-called evidence of climate change. Like, for instance, we flew over the Arctic for 16 hours and we only saw 1 polar bear.
Hang on, there's a photograph.
It so happened the rest were hibernating.
There's a photograph of the massive crack. Are you saying you don't believe the crack is there?
Yeah, the crack's there, all right, but I mean, it's a superficial crack. It's not going to create a new ice flow, 1/3 the size of Wales, like everybody's talking about.
2,200 square mile section of the Larsen Sea ice shelf snapped off at some time between Monday and Wednesday, according to a team bizarrely based in Wales.
Yes, exactly.
Swansea University.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, it has not snapped off. If it snapped off, it would have floated away. It hasn't. I mean, it's wrong terminology altogether, I'm afraid.
Well, they're saying that the iceberg is hanging by a thread and is broken off.
Oh, so it hasn't broken off then? It's hanging by a thread.
It's broken off.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I believe that when I see it. I'm sorry, I don't fall for all this Bolloxios that's pumped out every day.
You're looking at it.
I'm looking at. Do you know what it looks like?
What does it look
like? It looks like a tyre track in the ice. That's all it looks like.
Yeah, but look at you've got to look at it towards the size of the plane that's flying over it.
Yeah, but how high is the plane?
Well, you can tell the plane is a lot higher than 1,000 feet.
No, the plane could be low. I mean, it could be within a few hundred feet.
Okay, well, so even if it's a few hundred feet, the thing is clearly kilometres long.
I know it's kilometres long. I'm not doubting that there's been a fracture in the ice, but it hasn't broken away. It's not floating around anywhere.
Okay.
So I think we should stop saying it is.
Okay, I'll move on to one more question, which you can ponder before we have a small break, right?
Okay.
And that is, why has Ross Barkley been left on the tarmac while Everton have jetted off to Tanzania for their pre-season tour? You don't have to answer now.
Yeah,
you can answer in a minute.
Okay.
When you come back.
Will do.
Are you going to have it prepared?
Yes.
And also, of course, coming up later, we've got Porky Vision and Ask Porky.
Yes.
This is the way that we are structured at the moment. And also, loads of people have been complaining about the fact that we're not working very much.
I know.
We were working 6 days a week in June, right?
Yes.
We are now working 4 days a week,
yeah.
Which is only 2 days less than last one.
We've been accused of being slackers.
No, it's shocking.
We are not slackers.
We are not slackers.
And also, by the way, we're going to rev it up a little bit next week. This weekend, a double dose of daytime broadcasting. Warm-up Saturday, warm-up Sunday.
That's entirely true.
Yes.
This is TalkSport.
Yes.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
Ice, ice, baby. Ice, ice, baby. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. I sit back with my
brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle. Dance!
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. You can, of course, reach us at the Two Mics. And if you want to have a question answered live on air, this is the time to do it.
Yes.
Send us your problem, send us your quandary, send us your dilemma.
Yeah.
Porky will help. It'll be happening a little bit later on the show.
Yeah.
Crossy says this: that huge iceberg must be great news for that chap who has to tow one all the way over to the Indian Ocean.
Yes, that's
Do you remember
right,
you were
yes.
telling us they were towing one? So if this one's already broken away, it saves him all the bother, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does,
Fantastic.
because you've got to tow huge icebergs to the Middle East in order to then get some fresh water.
Del Boy says, Two Mics on the radio, World Series of Poker on BT Sport, two chaps and some mild bladderation. After work bliss.
Yes, absolutely.
And Rob says, less than 5 minutes into the show and I'm in absolute stitches.
Yeah.
Well, hang
stitches?
on, Rob.
What are you in stitches
we're
for?
talking about some very serious issues here.
Yeah, we are talking about very serious issues.
Adam says, hang on, lads, Franco supported the royal family. Porky, do your research as they're in exile before Franco's.
What does he say?
I don't know what he's talking about.
What did he say?
He's saying Franco supported the royal family.
No, he didn't. Franco was a Republican.
Yeah, of course he was.
They didn't want the royal family.
They didn't want them.
No, in fact, they weren't just Republican. It was a fascist dictatorship, virtually.
It certainly was.
Although it was never admitted as such.
And Adam also adds, he says, lads, if someone from Swansea told me it was raining outside, then I would still go out and check. Now, he's a Cardiff City fan.
Oh, I see.
So I think that's a bit unfair.
It's a very
I think what he's
unfair
trying to say is that these scientists in Swansea University who are claiming that there's this massive iceberg breaking away from Antarctica should be very, very closely examined.
Well, we all know, don't we, that the University of East Anglia, based in Norwich...
in East Anglia?
Yeah, in East Anglia. Yeah,
You're talking about the hockey stick graph now, aren't you?
Eh?
You're going to talk about the hockey stick graph.
Yeah, I'm going to say...
The hockey stick graph.
For years
they invented it.
Yeah, that's right. For years and years, we were being given information about climate change, which was completely and utterly questionable, weren't we?
Well, I mean, there's no question at all
Yes.
that the people in Norwich, in East Anglia University, completely skewed
That's right.
What the truth was.
That's right.
To turn it into something that they themselves wanted to see.
Exactly. That's exactly
no question
right.
at all.
Yeah.
However, you and I differ slightly because I would not say that global warming is rubbish. I would not say that climate change is not happening. All I would say is that we still don't know precisely why it's happening.
I accept that climate change is happening,
Do you?
but I say that it is far less man-made than some scientists would have us believe, and I believe it's a natural progression of the way the world works, involving sunspots and different agricultural processes.
Listen, you may well be right.
But
Do you know what I watched a bit earlier tonight?
What?
Interestingly enough, talking about the way the world works, was Joanna Lumley in India.
Oh, in India, yeah.
Have you seen any of that?
No, but she's a lovely lady.
Good.
She's very appealing.
Well, she's a national treasure.
Of course she is,
right?
yeah.
And it was fantastic to watch, because I'm a great lover of India anyway.
Yes, of course you are, yeah.
And why do you say, of course I am?
Well, didn't you get thrown out of an Indian restaurant the other night with our friend Mark?
No, that's
Yes,
not
you
true.
did. I think
no,
you did.
we did not get thrown
I think
out.
well, Mark's coming on tonight.
Mark's coming on later,
so
you
we'll
can
get
ask
to
him.
the truth, yeah.
That's not why I love India. I love India because I worked for an Indian magazine in my formative years as a journalist.
That's right,
and I went out to India to cover one of the Commonwealth heads of government meetings.
Yes, that's right.
It's called
very, very important to people in this country.
It's very important, yeah. The Queen goes out there.
That's
it's important enough to her.
Yes, that's
so
right.
she goes out there. The
I
Prime
said
Minister
that,
goes out there. He thinks it's important. And I went to Delhi, I went to Jaipur, I went to the Taj Mahal.
Did you get Delhi belly?
No, I didn't actually.
You didn't, actually?
No, because I was very careful what I ate.
Okay, yeah.
But I did get a very nice white cotton or linen
like long coat, so
jacket made, for about £10.
Oh, that's great.
Which was brilliant.
You still got it?
No. I was about 21 when I went out there.
Oh, okay.
But my point is that, I fell in love with India at that time.
Yeah.
And she does this travelogue now where she went to Bombay. She's going to go to other parts of the country.
Yeah.
And she's just a fascinating, it's a fascinating country.
Yes.
But when you see the mess that it's in and the amount of rubbish that they pour into the air.
And the poverty exists, unfortunately.
And all of that. And you go, well, so what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And how on earth are we protecting the environment when they're doing what they're doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about it.
I totally agree.
It's an absolute joke.
Now, how's the campaign going for your revolution to turn all cars electric?
Very well.
Is it going
really well?
Okay.
Yeah. Tesla, by the way, have now issued officially their latest Tesla 3 car, which will be available for around about 33,000
Well,
quid.
isn't that wonderful?
I was reading over the weekend as well that they're putting out a massive, which might be my next car actually, the massive sort of 7-seater family 4x4.
Oh yeah, you need one of those, don't you?
Which has got gull-wing doors.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, great.
Well, no, you need a big car when you have more than one person.
Right,
I know that you don't need to know that.
No.
But when you have 2 kids and a dog, right, how much space do you think you need?
Well, you need a bit of space, a 4x4, I suppose.
Well, you need a 7-seater.
Anyway, look, to stop you rambling on about this...
Well, you asked me a question. You're not going to get the answer.
Yeah, I've got the answer, but I'm going to give you some facts now about electric cars,
OK, then, go on.
Right, so your revolution electric car has
It's not my revolution.
hit a bit of a hiccup.
Oh, really?
Hit a bit of a hiccup.
Has it?
Yes.
OK.
Shall I tell you what the hiccup is?
Yeah, go on, tell me.
A brand new electric car was destroyed in a fire yesterday after being left charging outside the owner's house overnight.
Oh, yeah, what sort of electric car was it?
Fire crews blamed an electrical fault for the blaze, which reduced the Smart 42 electric drive car to a blackened shell.
Sorry, I've never heard of that.
The car had been...
Who makes that car?
Smart.
Smart?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a smart car?
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah.
That's Mercedes, isn't it? Mercedes owns smart car.
No,
yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Well, if they do...
It's one of yours.
No, it's not. It's nothing to do with mine.
It's a Mercedes car.
It's
gone on fire.
It's an electric car, and mine is not an electric car.
Yeah, but it's made by Mercedes.
Right. The car had been left outside an office block in Wickford, Essex, and despite the ferocious fire, its cable was still connected to the melted wall charger.
Hey?
I mean, isn't this pathetic?
Well, Mercedes should make better cars.
The bloke's plugging it into a wall charger outside his office. Fire crews had to ventilate the office block, which had become smoke-logged. Almost 50,000 electric or hybrid cars were sold in Britain last year, and 1 in every 30 cars sold is now powered by electricity. Many are fires have so
Why don't you just hold up a white flag and start waving it?
Many are powered by lithium-ion batteries, which are also one of the most popular types of rechargeable batteries and used in many mobile phones.
Yes.
But they can sometimes explode and catch fire when overheated, as was the case for Samsung's notorious Galaxy Note 7 phone.
You've got a Samsung phone, haven't you?
Eventually banned by airlines, in which the company was eventually forced to recall at a cost of billions of pounds.
Yeah.
So this is what's going to happen to electric cars of the future, OK?
Yeah.
Last night, a spokesman for Essex County Fire and Rescue Service said the car was well alight.
Essex County?
Yeah.
Isn't that in America?
No, it's in Essex.
Are you sure?
Here, yeah. The car was well alight when crews arrived. He said an electric car which was left on charge outside an office building has been 100% destroyed and caused smoke damage to a building after catching alight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, there are some cars which are good. There are some cars which are not good. Vauxhall had a problem with their Zafira, you might remember, about a year ago.
Yep.
You know what Vauxhall Zafira looks like, don't you?
Yes, that's right,
It's a sort of people carrier.
Yeah.
They spontaneously combusted all over the country.
Yes.
And they were not electric cars. They were petrol-driven cars. In fact, as you called them earlier, ICE cars, right?
Yes.
Internal combustion engine cars.
Yes.
So, yes, people can have their car go on fire.
That's right.
It can happen.
Yeah.
It does not mean that all collections of petrol-driven cars are bad, nor does it mean that all electric cars are bad. But I certainly would suggest to you that you revisit the smart car showroom the next time it's around anywhere, and you'll find that it's shared by Mercedes, because Mercedes owns smart car.
Right,
I think they've blundered here.
I've done some research on the battery situation.
Yeah, go on.
Right, lithium-ion batteries contain 2 electrodes. One is made from lithium and one from carbon.
Really?
They are submerged in a liquid called an electrolyte that lets electrical charges flow between the electrodes.
What you know about batteries, you can stuff up the back of a gnat's backside.
That's very crude expression.
Well, I'm sorry.
But,
you don't know it's a family show, but you don't know anything about batteries.
It lets the electrical charges flow between the electrodes.
Yeah.
If a battery is charged too quickly, it can cause what we in the profession call metal-like whiskers, they're known as dendrites, to form and pass through the liquid electrolytes, resulting in a short circuit that leads to explosion and fires.
Why are you shouting?
Because I'm trying to emphasise the point that these cars are blowing up.
No, who's giving you this information?
I'm getting it from my journals.
What sort of journal is it?
It's
the Anti-Electric Journal?
No. It's a journal of...
the Flat Earth Society Journal.
No, it's a study into the properties of lithium and
you sure it's not the
else.
Paranoid Daily Mail Journal?
Lithium and carbon. No, it's not.
It's definitely not that.
No, definitely not.
No. I think the trouble is that you are still, like King Canute, holding up your hands against the March of Progress. And the March of Progress, I'm afraid, is going to run over you.
No, I'm telling you, I'm on the ball here, and everybody else is going to recognise it too late.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said to you, my car runs out of the programme that I've got for it.
Yes.
In about 2.5 years.
Yes.
I will get an electric car. That will be my next car. And by the time that comes along...
What a fool.
No. What about Wayne Rooney? Did you not see Wayne Rooney driving the electric BMW?
No.
He turned
with the gold wings?
Yeah, no, he turned up for training in the
gold wing doors?
No, it hasn't got I don't know if he got gold wing doors.
It's got gold wing doors.
Well, all I know is that there was a picture of him driving up to the Everton training ground for his first appearance after signing on for Everton again in an electric car.
Yes.
So are you saying that he's an idiot? He's a half-baked? His car's about to explode? What are you going to tell him?
Wayne Rooney's got about 8 cars.
Yeah.
So it's not his first car of choice.
No, of course
it's
it's
a car
not.
to add to his fleet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's as simple as
but
that.
Are you saying the fact that he's driving an electric car means that he's a half-baked?
No, of course not. I've never described anybody driving electric cars as a half-bake. I've said that we are being led by half-bakes into the car revolution.
Would you say that he's a man with a great vision of the future?
I'd say Wayne Rooney's a great guy, full stop. Listen, why did it take us so long to park tonight here in Hatfield, which is the home of
for
Talk
some reason,
yeah.
the street in which we are now situated has been taken over by white vans. I'm not quite
it
sure
has,
why.
White van man.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I had to put it in the car park behind the building tonight, which is a nuisance because then it got to get it out again.
There's a new car down there as well, wasn't there?
Oh, it was a tatty-looking thing.
Well, it's one of these kind of boy racer type cars.
It would drive around with a fin on the back of their car in this day and age.
Yeah.
It had like
stabiliser.
A stabiliser. No, it was like a wing, wasn't it? Like a wing on the back.
It's like the thing you get on the back of a Porsche 911.
Yeah.
Except it was like a GTR, one of these Nissan GTRs.
I really think that anybody who works at TalkSport, shouldn't bring that sort of thing into the car park.
I'd be embarrassed to drive one of those.
So would I.
Yeah.
It's not good for the image, is it?
It had like 4 exhaust pipes, but it'll make that horrible noise.
4 exhaust pipes. It looked like a sort of American rapper's getaway vehicle, didn't it?
It would be one of the 7 cars that Floyd Mayweather bought, the day after he had his last fight.
A blingy car.
Yeah, a lot of bling.
Yeah, a lot of bling.
Now, how about this from...
It looks ridiculous. I'm surely no sort of married, responsible man with children.
I don't know if it belongs to anybody here. I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Daniel says this. Franco was a nationalist, part of the Phalange Party. They fought against the Republicans.
Yes.
So he's saying that he was not, in fact, a Republican.
Franco?
Yeah.
Well, it's difficult to define what he was then, in that case.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I've never heard of the Phalange Party.
Neither have I, no. But it's a bit like, in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, everybody, got confused what he was until Mrs. Thatcher worked out that he was from the Ba'ath Party.
The Ba'ath Party, yes.
Yeah, which were completely different to anybody else in the Middle East. And that's
it's the Sunnis and the Shias all over
Sunnis
again,
and the Shias and all that. And that's why when Tony Blair and George Bush decided to invade Iraq, they should have just looked up the history of Iraq to see that there is no correlation whatsoever between the Ba'ath Party, ruled by Saddam Hussein with an iron fist in Iraq, and Muslim terrorists. Nothing in common whatsoever.
No, exactly right.
Yeah.
How about this from Chris? He said, so Porky believes in a worldwide butter shortage, but doesn't believe that the 2,200 square mile part of the planet has cracked.
No, I don't. No, it's all propaganda in my view.
Propaganda, and here's one from Stuart. It says, Porky's Journal is written by BP.
No, it's not. No, honestly, it's not. Because when the oil companies, find out that all cars go electric, they will then be supplying power stations who will have to provide 1,000 times 1,000, not 1,000%, times 1,000 more fuel to power fuel stations, to fuel power stations, in order to produce the electricity to drive all these cars.
Do you know who?
Because we haven't got that much electricity.
Do you know who Andrew Adonis is?
Who?
Do you know who Andrew Adonis is?
Isn't he a government minister?
He was, and he's now known as Lord Adonis, right?
Yes.
He has written a paper which is all about the future of electric cars.
Yes.
And somebody tweeted it at you earlier on in the week and suggested you read it. I had a quick look at it, and actually it's all about how they're going to increase the amount of places where you can get electricity for your car, increase the amount of electricity generally available in the world for electric cars, and decrease the reliability on fossil fuels. Fascinating study, but of course you need to have more than the attention span of a gnat to read it.
Yeah, but in the end of it all, we'll all end up paying more
for
a less efficient system.
Incorrect.
There is nothing inefficient about the internal combustion engine.
Really?
It's one of the greatest inventions of all time for mankind.
Well, you may say that.
You can move a vehicle independently by putting a combination of explosive material and a spark. That's what petrol is. And a spark.
No, it's
not. Of course it is. Into a car.
But explosive material is not what petrol is.
It is.
Petrol is a fuel which happens to be flammable. It is not explosive material.
It is explosive,
Otherwise, every time you made an explosion, it would blow up.
It does, and it forces a piston down into the piston chamber. You've got to remember that petrol as a fluid is not explosive. Petrol as a vapour, which is what it is turned into inside the internal combustion engine, is explosive.
You sure it doesn't combust?
No, it's explosive.
Right.
It's
so
an
why is it
explosive
not called
vapour.
an internal explosive engine then?
Well, it's the same thing. Combustion, explosion is the same principle.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell that to the security services.
Yeah,
this is
tell
Talk
it to
Sport.
the Marines.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
Stick a bunny in me pocket. I'll fetch the suitcase from the van. 'Cause if you are the best ones, but you don't ask questions, then brother, I'm your man. 'Cause where it all comes from is a mystery.
This is TalkSport. We are the two Mikes. Mark Donaldson's going to be joining us a little bit later on, and in fact, he was at Wimbledon today as he watched probably, I think it was the 9th person, which was Andy Murray, Novak Djokovic as well, to limp out of the Wimbledon tournament. It's extraordinary how many men have not been fit.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's an aspect of the fact that they're a bit too old?
Well, there has been some accusations last week, certainly, that people are now taking advantage of the extremely lucrative rates that Wimbledon pays tennis players, even to get to the early rounds.
Right.
And they've just turned up for the dosh.
Yeah, but
so, they're amongst the 9 that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, in the early stages, but certainly not the case with Murray and Djokovic, who are multi-millionaires anyway.
Well, Murray didn't limp out, did he? He just
no, but he kind of did. Did you see, by the way, when he was pictured sort of walking to his car?
Yes,
he was limping massively.
Yeah, but that happens after a lot of tennis matches, and it happens to a lot of footballers after football matches. In the immediate hours afterwards, you get all sorts of stresses and strains and all that kind of stuff. So that's not necessarily that unusual.
Did you see what car he got into when he was limping out and driving home?
What was it?
Black Jaguar F-Pace.
Oh, really? Yeah, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly like mine.
Really?
Car of the year.
Exactly like yours. Oh,
car of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Feel like I have to boast about this, do you?
I'm just mentioning it to you.
Such an empty life.
Do you also know that I did tell you when you said that he was going to win Wimbledon, right? That I said he would not. Remember that?
Yes, but I mean, it's an easy thing to say he's not, because almost every other player except the winner does not win Wimbledon.
No,
and
but
the winner wins it.
No, but you're forgetting my logic. I said it was because he crashed out of Queen's, right? I took a lot of rubbish for this. I took a lot of crap for this, by the way, because we did it when we were on the mid-morning show, and I said, this man is not playing tennis like a world champion, #1 tennis player should be playing.
Like a Wimbledon champ.
Yeah, he got knocked out of Queen's in the first round. Yeah. He was then supposed to play 2 kind of exhibition games on the grass courts of the Hurlingham Club, which he then cancelled because he was injured. He didn't play any time at all on the green grass of home. Yeah. And he went into Wimbledon injured, and he has done what I suspected he would do, which is not to make it to the final.
But then he was actually very good in the opening rounds of Wimbledon, so everybody thought he was back to form.
Well, he didn't play anybody decent, though.
Well, he's out now.
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm afraid that's
so. All I'm asking you to do is to have a thought for my prediction and say, well done, you got that one right. No, I got it wrong.
Most of your predictions
the only words I ever wanted you to say, and we've been together many, many years now.
Yes.
All I want to hear occasionally, just once in a while, is, yes, you did well with that prediction. You got that one right, and I got it wrong.
No, pie in the sky, Val. Pie in the sky.
So you're not going to say it?
Well, I want to talk to you about a much more important issue.
Go on.
Were you aware of the fact that there was a big get-together for Formula 1 in London today?
Well, I mentioned it earlier on. Your mate Lewis Hamilton didn't bother showing up.
Well, this is the point. Now then,
he was too busy having a holiday.
We have some new information coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Lewis rages as Mercedes woo Vettel.
Oh, what, is he upset again?
The plot thickened.
Such a diva, isn't he?
Right, the plot thickened around Lewis Hamilton's extraordinary non-appearance at Formula 1's promotional event in London last night after it emerged his Mercedes team principal, Toto Wolff, a great name.
It is a great name, yeah.
Was a guest at championship rival Sebastian Vettel's...
Hold the line, Toto.
That's right, yeah, definitely. Was a guest at the championship rival Sebastian Vettel's 30th birthday party.
Yeah.
Wolff's attendance at Vettel's at-home celebration in Switzerland is all the more surprising given that the party took place between the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, at which Vettel rammed Hamilton off the road, and the FI hearing into the collision the following Monday. So, I mean, Lewis Hamilton is seeing...
So is he saying that after the Azerbaijan problem, actually Toto Wolff called Sebastian Vettel in?
No, went to Vettel's birthday party.
No, right, OK. But had a conversation with him about
Had a conversation with him. No team action, but then it was, it was predicted that there would be, more action from Formula 1.
Yeah.
And then Toto must have huge influence within Formula 1.
He does, yeah.
Was delighted to see that Formula 1 didn't move on Vettel either.
There's no question that Sebastian Vettel is one of the greatest drivers of all time,
That's right.
You agree with that?
Yeah.
So if you were Toto Wolff and you were involved in Mercedes, would you not be keeping it sweet with the guy in case he wanted to jump ship.
Well, this is what I think they're looking at. It was amazing, wasn't it, today, when people were told Lewis Hamilton wasn't coming to the big event.
People were pretty upset about it, actually.
They were booing, yeah. It's a PR disaster for Hamilton, Mercedes and new owners Liberty Media, who organised the extravaganza to promote the British Grand Prix, which will take place at Silverstone Sunday. Look, Lewis Hamilton said he was tired, and but I do think it's bad form not to have turned up to that.
Well, he should have taken part in it. I mean,
of course he should. He's the leading light. He's the leading light of the...
I mean, he's British as well.
Of course.
And in the midst
this is Britain.
And in the midst of the row that's been going on, I mean, I've been listening to TalkSport all week, and as I'm sure you have, and you've been hearing people saying that the problem with Silverstone is that the contract is going to be up in about a year and a half.
Yes.
And it could all be over.
Yeah.
And so we need to, either make sure that the British Grand Prix remains in Britain,
yeah,
or we do what Sadiq Khan wants to do,
yeah,
because he was up there sort of greasing his way around saying, why don't we have the race in London?
And watch this space. Now, I'll just finish this Hamilton thing, right? Hamilton may well have been influenced by Wolff's equivocal remarks immediately after the Azerbaijan incident, in which Vettel drove into Hamilton. As for his comments, Wolff said he needed to speak to Vettel first before pronouncing. A very open-minded comment from a boss who might have been expected to jump to his man's defence. And it goes on to say, it all adds up to the suspicion that Wolff is lining up Vettel, a German, for a German team as a replacement for Hamilton, whose future plans are uncertain.
Well, I mean,
so it doesn't look good.
I mean, people moan and groan about Johanna Konta, and is she really really British? She was born in Australia.
Yeah.
Her parents are Hungarian.
Yeah.
She was playing for Australia just a few years ago. But even though she's not been here since she was 4, she only moved in when she was 14.
Yeah.
She is representing Britain. I think she's a great representative of Britain. Lewis Hamilton, to me, is not a great representative of British anything.
Well, he is to me. He's British.
No, he's not really.
He doesn't. Watford or Hemel Hempstead or somewhere.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't live in this country. He's chosen to live in a tax-free zone whereby he doesn't pay any tax whatsoever to this country, right? I know that you've said before that lots of Grand Prix teams are based here, and it's very much a British subject and a British sport and all that. But Lewis Hamilton does not, to me, exhibit any kind of love of Britain.
Yes.
And the fact that he didn't bother to turn up for the Formula One fair in the middle of Trafalgar Square, in the middle of London, which is to safeguard the future of Formula One in this country, proves to me that he could not give a monkey's about Great Britain and Formula One.
That sounds,
and in fact, if somebody in a country like Pakistan or in a country like Bahrain, where they already have it, or a country where they don't have it, let's see, what could we say? Like Jakarta.
Yes.
They have one in Jakarta?
No, that's the Philippines.
Yeah.
No, Indonesia.
No, it's Indonesia.
Yeah, no, they don't.
If they came and said, Mr. Hamilton, would you like to come and race in our country? He would do it.
Yes. Well,
he's a complete mercy. He has no British kind of recognizance, if you know what I mean.
Now, you put a tweet out earlier, and it was one I supported you with, and then I added to it. You said, it's all very well having a Formula One Grand Prix around the streets of London, as Sadiq Khan, the mayor, wants to, and very pompously said, watch this space, and all that kind of stuff, like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I've got a secret deal going.
Yeah.
But does that mean they're going to tart up the roads in London, then, for a Grand Prix? But will not tart up the roads in London for drivers like me and you, who pay massive amounts of tax to drive around London.
I said, are they going to get rid of the speed
and park our cars here?
I said, are they going to get rid of the speed bumps?
That's right.
Are they going to get rid of the speed bumps?
Well, have to. You can't run a Formula One motor car across speed bumps.
I'd like to see a Formula One race with speed bumps.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
The brakes would last about one
and
circuit.
also with all the traffic lights.
Yes, and all the traffic lights.
They let 3 cars through and they go red again.
But, I think it's preposterous. First of all, they've got to get rid of all the speed bumps, as you quite rightly say. Then they've got to get rid, actually, of a lot of the road markings, right? Because even yes, the tyres on a Formula 1 car are so sensitive that even the difference of like 1/8 of an inch can
what do they do
in
Monaco when they do that?
Well, in Monaco, there are no road markings. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are.
Sure?
Certain, absolutely certain.
Really?
There are no road markings. Monaco is a Formula 1 racetrack which for 11 months and 3 weeks of the year...
Well, for 51 and a half weeks of the year.
Is allowed to be a
normal road.
As a normal road. Yeah. But it's a racetrack, to all intents and purposes. London is not a racetrack. London will have to be turned into one. I can't see it ever happening because of the amount of debris that you get on roads in London. How can they be sure that,
Well, you hit most of it, don't you?
I do. I have a habit of running over champagne bottals and things like that, which is not a good idea.
No.
By the way, I got the strangest blinking... message on. Don't worry about the time. Don't worry about the time.
Mark Donaldson. I'm worried about it.
Yeah, Mark Donaldson can wait. Okay.
No, he can't.
The strangest message on my dashboard tonight. Yeah. It said, "Left back seat ratchet not engaged." Yeah. Yeah.
You've got the worst car in the world.
Well, no, I haven't. You know what happened?
What was it?
I've bought an exercise bike.
What?
And it's in the back seat.
Right.
And it's so heavy.
Yeah.
It's so heavy, honestly.
So it's in an airbag back there or something?
No, it didn't activate, no. But it's so heavy, it made the seat pop forward. You see what I mean?
Oh, God.
Yeah. So
Why have you bought an exercise bike?
Because I need exercise for my sciatica.
Hang on, you've already lost 2 stone, you said.
Yeah, I have.
Well, if you'd exercise any more, you'll lose another 5 stone.
Well, I probably will. Yeah, I don't know what's going on
my
there.
very eyes.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
You sure you're not dying?
Well, I don't know, it could be. I think I'll go and see a doctor. What I think I'll do is I'll go and see the optician first.
Okay.
Because opticians can
generally
tell you whether you're about to die.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Yeah.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Stupid thing to say, to be honest, because that's not the way it's going to go.
Yeah, well.
Here's one from Brunton who says, too right, MG, about Lewis Hamilton. He talks with an American accent, utterly pretentious.
No, I don't think so. I think he's a great man. You know, people who achieve what he achieves in life are entitled to adopt their own style. Put it that way, okay?
Well, they are, but don't pretend that you're then fascinated by Britain and all things British. When you don't live in Britain, you support the monarchy over in Monaco, and you don't pay any taxes, and you then claim that, I'm Brit, but I'm not going to bother turning up for the celebration of the Grand Prix in London.
Well, I think that's bad form.
Formula One. I think it is bad form. Let's talk to Mark Donaldson, the man who knows everything about deserting his country and going away for the mighty dollar in America. Mark, a very good morning to you.
Wow, how about that for an intro?
I'm terribly sorry.
The thing is, Mark, you push off over there, to take the almighty dollar, as Mike just said, the green lucre. You come back to this country, and the first thing I hear that you're getting yourself into is getting thrown out of Indian restaurants at 10:30 at night. I mean, you want to come back and disgrace and mock your country like that? You should stay over in the States.
It was 12 o'clock, actually, wasn't it?
Exactly, but it'll be the same Indian restaurant that you were invited to and you stood us up. So
yes.
Sorry, are you talking to us from the bottom of another sort of bladderation session, Mark? Because you sound like you've got a bubble in your throat, like, a glass of champagne.
No, I think the phone's not...
right, I think we should ring you back.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, the line isn't great, but we'll persevere with it. Let's talk about the tennis, because it's quite a remarkable couple of days.
Yes.
We've got Murray out, we've got Djokovic out. Djokovic not even able to finish the game. Murray not fit. Are we in a position now where basically, Roger Federer had to take off some time, not playing the French Open in order to maintain his fitness? Have the top 4 basically run out of fitness, if for want of a better word?
Well, look at the effort that's on their body. I think I'll make a prediction tonight, and it might be wrong because we all get quite a lot wrong when you put yourself out on a limb. I'm not sure we'll see Andy Murray again this year. He's got a lot of things going on. He's obviously got the impending birth of his second child. He's got an issue with his hip. He doesn't want to rush back. He's going to be overtaken as world number 1 eventually. I get that. But I think with him, he's probably got 2 or 3 years left at the highest level. Why jeopardise that by taking the chance to maybe play some of the tournaments before the US Open when he's not 100%? It wouldn't surprise me, and he may well play the US Open, but it wouldn't surprise me, gents, if he pulled out of tennis now for maybe a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3 months. And who knows, if he needs to rest a little bit longer, he might even pull out the O2, because right now there's no guarantee he's going to qualify for the O2 World Tour Finals at the end of the year and just get himself ready for Australia. Roger did that with the French, didn't play there. Look at him at Wimbledon now. He's pretty much impenetrable. So it works. But I think we need to look at the bigger picture here. Is there an issue with how many tournaments are played? It's like an 11-month-of-the-year sport now. Are these guys getting enough space? And the women as well, are they getting enough time to prepare themselves and their bodies and rest up as well? Because it's like football. Football's become a 12-month-of-the-year sport. Tennis is getting that way. Doesn't matter how good they are. They're human beings. Their body needs a rest. And look what we've seen this week with Novak's arm, with Andy's hip, and with all the retirements we saw in the first round. I think maybe we need to look at maybe just reducing the number of tournaments to give these guys some rest.
Mark, the same thing's happening in cricket. And it's been happening in cricket now for 2 or 3 years. These guys are playing, as you quite rightly say, around the clock, at the behest of sponsors, at the behest of TV. We all love watching sport on TV, so there's a huge demand for it. And you're right. Somebody's got to put their foot on the brake here and say, look, we've got to rationalise this. Otherwise, we are going to drive our top people into early retirement. And Wimbledon might be the first example of that.
I agree. Do you remember back in the day when players used to report back for pre-season training?
Yeah.
It looked like Fatty Falks, the former big goalkeeper, was like 400 stone.
Yeah.
But look, they didn't take care of their bodies back then as much as they do now, where they come back very, very lean. But back then, it was like 2 months or 6 weeks since they last were seen at a football club.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't, apart from a World Cup year or a European Championship year, there wasn't that. But we've had the Confederations Cup, and then when I go back to the States next week after Wimbledon, I'll be doing the ICC games, which includes Man United, Man City, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and you're not going to see the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo playing for Real Madrid because he's already played the Confederations Cup, which for me is becoming a bit of a joke tournament. I mean, again, I've just said it with tennis.
Yeah.
Footballers, they're not machines. They need a rest as well, and I think you get to the stage, you're short-changing fans. I mean, it's sold out in Miami, Real Madrid, Barcelona for a pre-season friendly.
Yep.
They're trying to sell it as Messi against Ronaldo, but there's no guarantee that Cristiano will even play.
No.
Yeah.
And I think if I was sitting at Wimbledon yesterday and Novak Djokovic was walking off the court at the beginning of the second set, effectively, I'd feel pretty annoyed that I'd paid whatever you pay to sit there and watch the top-class players playing tennis because it's not on, is it?
No, but here's the alternative. Imagine Novak makes things worse by playing 3, 4, 5 sets. We don't see him again maybe until next year. You've got people who may be wanting to go over to the US Open. They're not going to see Djokovic if he hurt himself by doing that.
No, listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, Mark. I'm saying that is, what you don't want is players dipping out in the middle of tournaments.
Correct.
If you want to buy tickets for the male quarterfinals, you don't want to see two guys in two of the games unable to really play at the top of their game.
It's true. It's absolutely true, and it's not good enough. It's also not good for the image of Wimbledon, Mark, because Wimbledon is the superior tennis tournament in the world. It always has been and always will be. So we don't want to be the victims of the players overplaying in a load of less important, trivial and minor competitions.
Well, I think you're being terribly Little Britain about that.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
in the build, no, I'm not. Don't you agree with me, Mark? Even from where you live in America, on the other side of the pond, taking lots of money that does not generate huge taxes like we do in this country. I'm not questioning your patriotism, but it is well regarded over there that Wimbledon's number one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you go to the US Open, people might have a different opinion, but for me, Wimbledon is the number one, and I think of a lot of Americans as well. Most of the tennis players want to win Wimbledon. Of course, the US Open's different, it's noisy, but it doesn't have the tradition, for me, that Wimbledon has. I think we have to look into this a bit more. I think we have to look at the tournaments. You're right, we have to look at the tournaments before and after. We had an extra week this year. This was the first time in over 100 years that Wimbledon started in July, so the players were hoping for an extra week to prepare on grass after the clay surface. They got that, but there's still issues. So the question has to be, let's look at the tennis calendar. I know history and tradition dictates that Wimbledon kind of has to be when it is because of the British summertime. You don't want to be playing in May or September or whatever.
Yeah.
But what about some of the other tournaments? I mean, you've got one in January with Australia, then you go May, July, and August. You've got 3 in the space of 4 months. Should we look at the tennis calendar now and maybe say, let's space these out a bit more and give our best players the opportunity to play at their best, and more importantly, as you both just mentioned, give the fans the opportunity to, having shared out £135 for a centre court ticket, to see these best players play their best form.
Yeah, no, I absolutely.
Now, given that the only member of the top 4 left is Roger Federer, and he looked pretty good yesterday.
He's been given a bye to the title, hasn't he?
Well, I'm not saying that. Let me ask Mark if he thinks that actually one of the... Because what I was, I suppose, getting at was that if the top 4 are incapable of keeping up this very, very busy schedule and this very demanding schedule, I don't see necessarily, Marin Cilic coming through as the next great player who's going to be the world number one. I don't see, Berdych coming through. They've all been around for a while. What's going to happen? Is Roger Federer going to get this one?
I think he'll get this one, yes. However, want to take you back to when Marin Cilic won the US Open. Who did he beat in the semi-finals in 2014? He beat Roger Federer.
Yeah.
Now, Roger's rested, he's recuperated, he's ready. And I think he'll beat Marin Cilic. I think it'll be harder. And what I would say is, with regards to Andy Murray, I think Andy deserves plaudits for what he did. He was asked a question in the press conference I was at on the Sunday before the tournament. If this was a 250 or a 500 tournament, basically the lesser tournaments they play out with the Grand Slam, would you still compete? And he said yes, he would, because the way he was feeling on the Sunday was better. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he was saying that just because it was the correct answer. So to put what he put himself through in that match against Sam Querrey, if he's fit, Andy Murray wins that. There's no doubt about it. He was fit in he probably had 2 hours worth of tennis, and he was hoping that if he could get it done in 3 sets, then he could be through. But I think for him to put his body on the line, it's admirable. But even if he got through, I didn't think there was any way he was going to get any further than the semi-final. If he did, then Roger would have beaten him.
Yeah.
I think for Roger to win his 8th Wimbledon title, it's going to be special. And I think even if Andy Murray had got to the final and played Roger Federer, I would have still felt that Roger Federer was going to do it. And this is incredible. This is a 35-year-old that looks after himself.
Yeah.
I think he'll beat Cilic in the other semi-final. I mean, it's a tough one to call who it's going to be. If Sam Querrey can, I think Federer will beat Derek. My apologies, and I think Cilic against Sam Querrey. The last time we played went 17-15 in the first set, so that could be a long one. I just can't see anybody.
You can't really.
It's Roger's tournament for me to lose.
No, indeed. And what about Johanna Konta? What a great tournament she's had. She gets underway again in the ladies' semi-finals later on today, our time. She's been a breath of fresh air, hasn't she?
Love it. I think she'll beat Venus. I think it'll be a 3-setter. I think it'll go to the decider. But I just think we saw against Simona Halep, even though she lost the first set, she had the chances to break and she played really well as well. Muguruza, by the way, is the dark horse for me. She's playing really well right now, and that will be a potential final opponent for either Jo Konta or Venus Williams. I think she'll beat Rybarikova. I think we're looking at a Jo Konta against Muguruza final, and a lot of people were hoping it was going to be Andy Murray. Not many people thought it would be Jo Konta beforehand. Might be the case. We are celebrating a first British success at Wimbledon in the ladies since Virginia Wade in 1977.
And that would be incredible, wouldn't it? Mark, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Mark Donaldson there from ESPN, who's covering Wimbledon, of course. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. Lots more coming up, of course. Quite a few people have posted pictures of the Monaco Grand Prix, showing that, in fact, there are what you might call street signs and street paint on the Monaco Grand Prix. So there is clearly a zebra crossing and a middle line.
No, they are put down for the race. They go after the race.
Why would they put a level crossing down? A zebra crossing down?
No, they don't. What they do is they put down lines because the roads are so narrow. They have to indicate to the drivers where the racing line is, and they
so you're saying to me the white line
on the road.
So the white line down the middle of the road is not there normally.
No, it's not there normally.
So they take it away for the rest of the year.
Take it away.
Are you sure about this?
Yeah, it's to indicate the racing line. Believe me, I've spoken to people down there who know about these things.
I see.
And the actual what you call a zebra crossing is not a zebra crossing. It is an entry point to the track. Should there be an accident and debris needs clearing up.
Okay.
And that's it. That's
You're
clearly
just making this up as you go along.
No, I'm not.
Because what I've got here is a tweet from Nigel, who refers to an accident that took place in the Monaco Grand Prix, where a racing driver called Mr. Palmer, Jolyon Palmer, crashed heavily during Sunday's race in Monte Carlo. And this was obviously just after the race took place in 2016. And he says, starting behind the safety car, the field had just been released to start racing when Palmer lost control on the main straight. He later said that the reason why he lost control was because of the white paint of a pedestrian crossing that had caught him out.
Yeah, well, I told you what that's for.
So you're quite right to say that the paint on these things is not good for racing.
That's right,
absolutely. So why would they put it on there if it wasn't already there?
Well, it could have just been a bum application or something like that, which wasn't done properly because these things happen. But generally speaking, it shouldn't be there.
I see.
Which one of the Spinks brothers did you go and interview hilariously in Detroit?
Funnily enough, I interviewed both of them.
Right.
Michael Spinks was the guy who got got beaten up by Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's right.
He was the guy who threw me out of his press conference because I suggested to him that he could not take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And he went mad.
Yes.
Like literally bonkers mad. Had to be thrown out. What do you know?
Yeah.
What do you know about boxing?
Yeah.
You limey. What do you know? Can you take a punch from Mike Tyson? I said, well, with the greatest respect to Mr. Spinks, I'm not going to have to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
You are.
But Leon, who was the heavyweight champion of the world, formerly, was the one that I went to find in Detroit.
In a bar. Where all he did was sit there all day and get completely...
Well, he was paid by the bar.
Yeah.
He was paid by the bar to get people to come
That's
in and
right,
talk to him.
come and talk
a bit
to
like Barry John
Leon
in that
Spinks.
Chinese restaurant in Cardiff. And he sat there in his fur coat, which was bedraggled, with no front teeth because he couldn't afford to get them fixed.
Unbelievable.
Drinking a mixture of Cointreau and lager.
Unbelievable.
In the same glass.
Unbelievable.
I spent actually probably about nearly 24 hours with him.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
Great guy.
The reason I ask is because Michael Spinks is in fact 61 today.
Is he?
Yeah, former world light heavyweight and heavyweight champion. I didn't realise that. 61 today.
Well, he got quite badly beaten up by Tyson, funnily enough, as it turned out, because he danced around the ring quite a bit. And it was when Mike Tyson was still reasonably in his pomp.
That's right, and he came stalking him, didn't he?
But as soon as Tyson landed one on his stomach, he went down like a sack of potatoes.
Right, well,
and I remember jumping up and down and going, I told you couldn't take a punch from Mike Tyson.
That's right, yeah. But the problem is, I think when people fight Mike Tyson, the first time Mike Tyson punches them, I think they conveniently go down because they don't fancy too much of it over the next 30 minutes.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, here's one from Martin, who sends you best wishes. He says, Porky, your current weight loss and much nicer facial looks are clearly down to Blado less than Modo.
Well, it could be.
Does that mean you've been drinking less?
Yeah, well, I do drink a lot less these days.
Why?
I hardly drink wine at all now.
Why?
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, you don't like it? What the hell's happened to you?
Well, I don't know, but it suddenly started to taste rather funny in the back of my throat.
Really?
By the way, tonight, halfway through the day, I suddenly got this golf ball type effect in my throat.
Right.
You know, when you've got a sore throat and you think, golly, what's that? It was under my tongue. And I thought...
What, you mean you couldn't swallow?
Yeah, I couldn't swallow, and I was getting pain along the right side of my... So I'm getting a lot of afflictions at the moment.
You are?
You know, pain in the mouth.
Well, I mean, your
frozen shoulder.
I thought your frozen shoulder and the sciatica had gone now.
No
Still
way.
there?
I'm going to see the chiropractor again today at midday, actually.
Right.
A bit of, eye problems in the heat and that kind of stuff.
Eye problems?
Yeah, that's right.
You haven't told me about these.
Yeah, well, I'm getting blurred eye vision.
Blurred vision?
Yeah, that's right.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
I think you are dying.
Yeah, but
honestly.
I think that's down to the heat. I think that's when perspiration gets into your eyes.
But it's been a lot cooler the last couple of days.
Yeah.
It cooled down sufficiently yesterday
for
me to actually think quite rightly about, cooking things in an oven again.
Right, okay.
You know?
Yeah. Now then, you and I have never had a tattoo, right?
Certainly not.
And what would you do if your children came home and had a tattoo or wanted a tattoo?
Well, one of my children does have tattoos. Actually, two of my children have tattoos.
Okay, but your younger children then, I'll tell you.
Well, they're only 12 and 10.
That's what I mean. What happens in the 16 and they say, I want a tattoo?
I would discourage them from having one.
Okay.
On the basis that everybody that I know at some point or other decides that maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Yes.
Equally, there are many people who do it and love it and like it and do not regret it at all.
I mean, you see so many people so badly tattooed, and David Beckham's probably the... and look, when I say badly, I mean intensely tattooed, right?
Yeah.
Intensely tattooed. And David Beckham likes it, and he's a world icon, that's up to him. But it is now becoming extremely respectable business to the extent, right, which I found out in one of my business journals, that a chap called Fredrik Glimskar,
yes,
who is Scandinavian, has invented a company called Inkbay in Sweden,
right,
and they are moving into Britain to set up a chain of tattoo parlours, which are going to be international.
I'm surprised actually somebody hasn't done that before.
Well, tattoo parlours to me have always been
business.
Tatty little lock-up shops, you know what I mean, with, garish front windows showing you all sorts of tattoos.
Yeah, and they sell some other dodgy stuff.
Yeah, and you go in there and you can smell the damp because the damp-proof course is gone, and that's why they got the lock-up shop so cheaply, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that kind of stuff.
I assume that's changed over recent years.
Say again?
I assume that's changed over recent years.
Well, I think it has changed a bit. But anyway, it says here, Inkbay are coming from Stockholm. They're moving into Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, perhaps Woking, okay.
Woking? My goodness me.
Yeah, exactly. What have we got here? Paris Pamela South has set up an Inkbay account. So what you do is you kind of take a franchise. You see what I mean?
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like having a Starbucks.
That's right. After she moved to Stockholm from Woking in Surrey in February, right? The young lady is 22. She's a tattoo artist. She was looking for new ways to establish her client base outside the social media profiles on Instagram and Facebook that have become an essential part of tattoo marketing.
Yeah.
So she's found this company in Scandinavia. She got 10 bookings through Inkbay and finds that they come in bursts when she uploads new designs. So she puts up a new design, all of a sudden she's got customers, OK?
Right.
But
see, that's an interesting thing. Do you think people see a design and go, oh, I must get that design, rather than I must get a tattoo?
That's right.
And then they go and have a look and see which one they want.
Yes.
So that's a new thing. If people have decided that they're going to look at, say, a Facebook design and go, I'd like that on my back.
That's right.
I'm surprised at that, because I would have thought the biggest decision is that you want a tattoo in the first place.
Well, maybe, but I mean, it's like you and I leafing through all the brochures and saying which sort of car we're going to get next.
Yeah.
This lot think I need a new tattoo.
Yeah.
So do they then go and flip it all over? The interesting thing she says is, this young lady, is that did we know, or did I know, that no tattooist will ever do the same tattoo twice.
Really?
So if they've done one, and it's a major production,
so you've got like a big eagle or something.
Yeah,
in your back.
right. That's right.
They won't do that again.
They won't do it again.
Really?
There'll have to be a variation on it, because
I don't believe that.
Well, she said we would never tattoo the exact same design twice.
Right. For example, here's an example, and I'll give you this because of my two kids that I know who have got it.
Yeah.
My daughter and my son, my two older kids, have both got a peace sign tattooed on them.
Right.
Right. The peace sign that looks a bit like an upside down Mercedes or whatever.
Right.
They both got that.
Yeah.
Now you can't really change.
Looks like an upside down Mercedes.
Well, you know what a peace sign looks like. I'll draw one for you. You've never seen a peace sign.
Well, it's like Ringo Starr, isn't it? Peace and love, man. That's all he ever says. In fact, that is all he ever says these days. That's the only words he's ever uttered for about the last 3.5 years. Peace and love, man. Hey?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that.
A bit of peace and love.
Sort of like that.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's the CND sign. That's the campaign for nuclear disarmament.
No, it's a peace sign.
Yeah, but it was adapted by the CND, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament.
To all intents and purposes, it's a peace sign.
Yeah,
and that's what they both got.
Oh, right, okay. Peace
in different parts of their bodies, right?
Yeah.
Now that is the same design. So somebody did the same design.
Yeah,
and they got it from the same place.
Yes.
So that's rubbish.
No. You don't understand me. The individual artist will not do it twice.
No, they got it twice. They got it from the same guy.
No, they couldn't have
done.
They did. Couldn't have done.
They did.
There must be a slight variation.
No.
Well, he's a man of no principle.
Well, maybe so.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Yeah.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
That's a great song, by the way, called Tattoo.
Who's that?
It's Tattoo.
And who's done it?
That Tattoo are the people doing it.
Oh, I see. What's the song called?
I think it's called Running Through My Head.
Is it? Running Through My Head? Okay, yeah.
It's a very good song, though.
Now then, these cycle lanes.
Eh?
Cycle lanes.
Cycle lanes.
Now, we're going to New York in September.
We are.
Now, the city's gridlocked now because half of Fifth Avenue is a cycle lane.
Cycle lanes, a lot of cycle lanes in New York City, yeah.
I know. I mean,
so you can't go there and start kicking up about it.
Well, it's
because, you'll get deported.
It's an international disgrace.
You will get deported. It doesn't help, by the way, that at the top of Fifth Avenue, very close to Central Park, where Trump Tower is, there's a complete and utter sort of, armed convoy sitting there, which makes it very difficult for you to go anywhere within a square block of Trump Tower
because of
the Donald and his stupid son Donald Jr., who we're going to talk to very shortly with Bourdin.
You talking about Donald with the goofy teeth?
Donald Jr. Maybe I would have done things a different way, but I didn't tell my dad nothing.
No,
he didn't need to know nothing.
No,
there was nothing going on.
No, that's right.
I just met with these guys and there was nothing. It was over nothing.
Quite right. Anyway, these cycle lanes, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. We've got all these cycle bikes in London. But guess what?
People are saying, by the way, if there is a Formula One race that goes around the streets of London, will there still be cycle lanes?
Well, they get rid of them, hopefully, and then not bring them back. Anyway, it says here, right, what happens is that most of these people who get these Boris bikes, which are now called Santander bikes, because they're their new sponsor, right?
And also Boris is no longer the mayor.
Boris is no longer the mayor. Most of them just get on them and ride round Hyde Park Corner and then drop them off again.
Right?
90% of bikes which are rented in London, right, the statistics
Why
from transport...
Why would they drive around Hyde Park Corner?
Because it's a way of getting around Hyde Park, because Hyde Park's so big. The statistics from Transport for London show that 9 of the 10 most popular trips on the bikes over the past 5 years were around the 350-acre park. The most used route involved picking up a bike from Hyde Park Corner and dropping it off at the same place, a journey that's been made 117,733 times. TfL.
Well, that's rubbish, though.
No, it's not.
No, it's rubbish.
These are facts from the people who actually run the system.
So people take a bike from Hyde Park Corner, cycle across Hyde Park, maybe to go to Oxford Street or Marble Arch. Forgive me for if you don't know London terribly well. Bayswater you can go to. Maybe going down the other way to Harrods.
Yes.
I mean, well, that's because it's part of the centre of London, surely.
Yeah, but they just drive round and then they come back and dump the bike. It would appear that its appeal could be rather more limited than previously thought. New figures suggested that the so-called Boris bikes, nicknamed after the former mayor, mostly used as a way of getting around Hyde Park rather than as a realistic alternative to road transport, OK?
Right. OK.
Yeah. The bikes were hired 10.3 million times last year. That's an increase on the previous year. Scheme is being expanded beyond the original central zones. That means we've got more bike lanes going out into the provinces.
Yeah. I mean, it's another lost cause, I'm afraid. I mean, you're going to just move with the times and accept that these bike lanes are going to be there to stay.
Yeah. But it also says it is thought, right, get this is a really worrying development.
What?
The Chinese are moving in. A Chinese-owned cycle hire scheme called Mobike was launched in Manchester last month. It does not require bikes to be returned to specific docking stations, making the process more flexible.
So where do you leave the bikes
You'd leave it anywhere.
Just leave them by the side of the road?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It is thought
that's actually a better system, to be honest.
Well, I told you about this months ago. I told you this was going on in Shanghai.
I think you did mention it.
It is thought that other Chinese cycle hire companies are also looking to establish footholds in cities, including Birmingham and London.
Yeah.
Stephen Joseph, Executive Director of the pressure group, the Campaign for Better Transport, said of the London bikes, they can be great for cycling around inner London, but one of the issues with it is that the scheme is not properly integrated with the Oyster... What's the Oyster card going to do?
The Oyster card, well...
And seems to stand alone from the rest of the transport network.
Well, the Oyster card, again, is part of the whole... sort of production line of trying to get you to use public transport and not drive your car.
Yeah.
Right? Which, of course, I mean, funnily enough, I was driving around London earlier on today, and actually the congestion charge seems to be doing something recently because there's less cars on the road, in my opinion, over the last couple of weeks when I've been driving in town.
Yeah, but that's because people are on holiday.
You think
they
that's
always
why?
are in the summer. Of course there are.
That's why they're on holiday.
Don't be taken in by the fact that it's anything to do with reducing the number of
The
cars.
schools are not on holiday yet.
Well, I'm telling you, people have gone away and gone on holiday, and businessmen leave town. What's that famous expression? The stockbrokers, in April,
I don't know.
push off till September or something, isn't it?
Really?
Sell up in April, don't come back till September, something like that, yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
How about this one from Dazza? With all these ailments Porky has, if he was a horse, they'd shoot him.
Yeah, they would, actually. I think you're quite right.
And here's one from somebody called Anthony, who's a Glasgow Blue. Me and my brother have the exact same Everton tattoo, done by the same guy.
Yeah.
Harry's talking absolute tosh.
No, I'm not talking tosh at all.
And Ethan says, I sent my tattoo as the picture of a lion I wanted done, and he now uses the same design when he does lions.
Right.
So... this cobblers you're talking about, that they only do one design once.
It's a code of professional competence.
It's not true.
Code of professional competence.
Incontinence is more like.
That's right, yeah.
Michael says, Mike Parry and Jesus Christ, the only people who were never wrong.
Really? Oh, well, that's quite a compliment.
I don't think
Thank you
he
very
means
much
that.
indeed.
And Cal says, Porky reminds me of my late nan, full of rubbish, endearing and totally mad.
Yeah, is that correct? Well, I don't know what you're talking about there. Now, on the... we're going to...
Why have you suddenly jumped from tattooist to cyclist to,
because
New York?
Well, because we haven't been on this week, so I'm having to mop up a load of issues which I feel very strongly about,
but don't you think that
which our listeners believe I should be taking on to try and stop the world from completely falling apart.
No, but hang on. You see, this is the thing where people get carried away with what they perceive to be a changing time-space continuum, right?
Yes.
The fact that we worked last weekend from Wednesday night.
Yes.
To Thursday night, to Friday night, to Saturday, to Sunday.
Yes.
We worked 5 days in a row, right?
Yes, yes.
We then didn't work Monday night or Tuesday night, effectively taking 2 days off.
Yes.
You know, all hell breaks loose and people go, oh, why haven't you done a podcast?
That's right, yeah.
You know, to be honest, that's taking 2 days off, which we used to do anyway.
There'll be one in the morning, don't worry.
But it was never a podcast on Sunday for Monday.
Yes.
But now there is.
Yes, well,
because we're working Saturday and Sunday.
It's true, absolutely.
So I don't know why people get so worked up about the fact that we're not doing enough podcasts.
Well, don't worry, because we're doing podcasts called On the Record to promote our American trip in September.
Well,
now,
it's not even to promote that. It's just because we're doing American stories.
Well, to interest people in what we're doing in America. And some very interesting developments on that coming up in the next few weeks. Now then, we were originally going to do our show on the 17th, the Sunday, right?
16th, Saturday.
No, we were originally going to do it on the 17th,
yes,
on the Sunday.
We were.
And we moved it back to Saturday because of another artiste.
A scheduling conflict.
And who was it?
Suzanne Vega.
And I found out some information about her.
Have you?
I found out some information
about her.
Well, actually,
it wasn't so much that it was a scheduling conflict because we were due to be doing the show in the afternoon because we're live streaming it and London's 5 hours ahead.
Yeah.
You know, we were quite happy to do it sort of 2 in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
Her people decided that they needed access to the venue closer to sort of 3 o'clock.
Yes, that's right.
And it all became a bit complicated. So we moved it to Saturday to keep them happy.
I'm feeling a bit extra insulted now because I found out that just yesterday Suzanne Vega was 58. Now,
what's wrong with that?
Well, if we'd been blown away for somebody like Pixie Lott or something like that, that would have been okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, no, but the City Winery is a place where people like Jackson Brown play.
Yeah.
Billy Bragg has played there.
He's dead, isn't he, Jackson Brown?
No.
Isn't he?
He's not dead.
He was the soul singer who died.
James Brown.
Oh, James Brown. Yeah, okay.
Jackson Brown's not a soul singer.
You're still going.
Well, Jackson Brown is a guy who is a sort of contemporary of the Eagles.
Oh, is he? Okay.
And in fact, he used to write music with the Eagles.
Oh, did he? Okay. So he's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
Right.
You've also, I think Don Henley might have played there as well. They tend to put on people who are our sort of age.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
right?
Okay, yeah.
Suzanne Vega is, by the way, a very sensible and an interesting woman.
Well, I'm not sure she is.
Please don't start insulting her.
I'm not sure she is, because...
Why would you be slagging off people who are playing the same venue as us?
I'm not slagging her off at all.
I wish you wouldn't do that.
She's a great woman.
That's good.
She's a great woman. I'm going to tell you some interesting things about her.
Okay, go on.
She had hits with Luca and Tom's Diner.
Exactly right.
Do you remember that?
I know both those songs.
Do you know those
very
songs?
well?
Okay, Luca and Tom's Diner.
My name is Luca.
My name is Luca.
I live on the second floor.
I live on the second floor.
I live upstairs from you.
Oh, is that right?
I think you might have seen me before.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard that one.
Yeah.
It
was actually written about that terrible case of domestic abuse of a child.
That's right.
Who was killed by his parents who lived in Greenwich Village.
That sounds a bit like the style of Pearl's a Singer.
What, by Elkie Brooks?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, I mean, Suzanne Vega's a very, very good musician and very good songwriter.
Right. Anyway, now she auditioned for the lead role in Desperately Seeking Susan, which would have been her big breakthrough on the cinematic screen.
Really?
But lost out to Madonna.
I don't believe that.
Well, it's true.
I'm amazed by that.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem like the sort of person that would want to be an actress.
Well, she wanted to be an actress, and now she was Glastonbury Festival's first female headliner, so this makes her quite important in the world
She's
of
a very important
rock and roll.
singer. I mean, when I found out that Suzanne Vega was playing the same place we were playing, I felt very proud.
Okay, but... unfortunately, she took to the stage wearing a bulletproof vest, which people thought was part of her act.
Yes.
But in fact, it was after a girl infatuated with her bass player in the group had made death threats against the whole band and was let loose in the audience.
Really?
So, yeah.
What, at Glastonbury?
At Glastonbury, yeah.
Well, you wouldn't get a gun into Glastonbury, would you?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, a shotgun from a nearby farm.
Yeah, exactly. That's
when
the
you'd
sort of
see
thing,
that.
Yeah, but anyway, so...
well, why wouldn't you wear a bulletproof vest? I mean, if somebody said to you that some crazed, ex-fan had decided he wanted to kill you because you hadn't, done the right thing or signed the right autograph or blanked somebody in a bar.
Yeah.
You'd probably wear a bulletproof vest.
Well, I suppose you would, yeah. But anyway, that puts us in very esteemed company, doesn't it? Does it not?
It does indeed. Well, the City Winery is a place where an awful lot of esteemed people have played.
Well, that's right.
Buster Poindexter, who's a very famous New York musician and character, is also playing there, I think, the same month that we are.
Right, okay.
So it's going to be very exciting. By the way,
all sounds very exciting.
If you haven't managed to see where to get the tickets from, or indeed where to get the live stream from, go to the2mics.co.uk and you will see all there. And you can decide whether you want to see it all, or whether you want to actually come out and visit us, which a lot of people are doing. A lot of people are flying out to see it.
Yeah, I know. we're going with British Airways.
Yeah, I know that.
And that's great because what we might do is we might say to British Airways, it's been nice to be with you, and we might give them a copy of the show.
Yeah, we might do.
Yeah.
We might well do. There's an awful lot of things in the pipeline.
Indeed.
Coming up, though, we're going to be talking about Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. With Bourdin, who's from The Times in Washington.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
From Russia with love, I fly to you, much wiser since my goodbye to you. I've traveled the world to learn I must return from Russia with love.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and of course the big story, apart from all the things that we've been watching at Wimbledon, apart from what's been going on in Europe with Brexit and what some of the European politicians have been saying, is the sideshow, for us anyway, the main event in America, which of course is Donald Trump Jr., his email trail, his meeting with Russians, his attempts to try and get dirt on Hillary Clinton before the election, and all of that kind of nonsense. It's all going on. Depending on which side of the aisle you talk to, it is either a whole load of nothing in a bag, or indeed it is possibly treasonous. And in fact, one particular Democrat has now filed the first articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. Let's talk to Bourdin, our good friend from The Times over in Washington, D.C., to find out what is going on in the White House. Bor, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Lovely to hear
so it's
from
not
you.
so much from Russia with love as from Russia with, an awful lot of a sting in the tail, which may or may not mean something. What does it mean, and what is going on?
I think that's a good question that everyone in Washington and indeed other places, I'm sure, are asking. But as you introduced already, it's the case that Donald Trump Jr., Mr. Trump's eldest son, it seems is in a bit of trouble for meeting with a Kremlin-linked lawyer, and it's been revealed that he knew going into the meeting, as did Jared Kushner, his brother-in-law, and Paul Manafort, who later became Mr. Trump's campaign manager, that the information that they were going to be supposedly receiving had come from a Russian government source. And that's a big no-no when it comes to American election campaign rules, because you're not supposed to knowingly solicit the help of a foreign national or a foreign government and receive any kind of contribution from them, the statute says, and that includes money or anything of value. And it's sort of up for debate whether this kind of intelligence that they were supposedly offering is something that would fall under that statute.
Sure. But I mean, the problem is, Bor, isn't it, that the more that you delve into this, the more ridiculous the sense of truth is, really. Nobody seems to be able to put their hands on what the truth is. You know, if you listen to Donald Trump Jr., he says, well, of course, it turned out to be nothing. It turned out they didn't have any information on Clinton. It turned out there wasn't any point in having the meeting itself, and nothing came from it. Therefore, there's nothing to say. Whereas, of course, if you listen to those people who hate Trump, they say, well, hang on, this shows that they wanted to collude with the Russians and a foreign power and to undermine the election.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The sort of two sides of the issue, and I think it's quite funny because a popular thing to ask on Capitol Hill today has been going up to Republican lawmakers, senators, and congressmen, asking, well, would you have done this? Would you have taken this meeting? And sort of making some people a bit uncomfortable. Because they're not willing to say one way or the other, hypothetically, whether or not they would have taken the meeting. But even some members of Mr. Trump's party who have been sort of notable critics of him, Senator John McCain, who was the 2008 Republican presidential candidate, Senator Lindsey Graham, who's been very vocal his criticism about Mr. Trump, even though they do sort of, speak pretty regularly, have come forward and said, look, this raises a lot of questions and is possibly, a violation of campaign finance laws, and Mr. Trump Jr. should have called the FBI, and that would have been the right thing to do. So it's certainly quite a divided Washington today.
I mean, Bull, wasn't the flat-handed handshake which the president offered to Mr. Putin supposed to have sort of washed over all this now, and on people now supposed to be saying, actually, it's not a bad thing to have the President of the United States and the leader of Russia shaking hands together and being buddies, and why do we need to investigate anything that's, deemed to be suspicious about a relationship between the two of them?
Yeah, and that's certainly the argument that Mr. Trump is making himself.
Yeah.
And look, it's good to have good relations with Russia. He confronted Mr. Putin about the allegations of hacking, and Putin denies them. And given what's going on in the world, given the need to engage with the Russians on big foreign policy issues like what's going on in Syria, it's not a bad thing. And Mr. Trump is also making the argument that, look, if Hillary Clinton had been in office, then maybe things would have been worse because American military morale overseas is very low. Who knows what would have happened with Syria? Her sort of foreign policy history might not have resulted in any kind of positive outcome with the Russians, and that's an argument that is convincing to people who back Mr. Trump.
But of course, it's all relative, isn't it? In the end, I mean, Donald Trump puts out a tweet a few hours ago. Why aren't the same standards placed on the Democrats? He says, "Look what Hillary Clinton may have gotten away with. Disgraceful." And then, of course, people pile in and go, yes, of course, she ran a crooked foundation. She deleted 33,000 emails. She was never actually charged with any crime by the FBI when there was clearly something that was up, which would suggest that she was up to no good. There is a problem, is there not, with the perception that the liberal media, as they are called, are giving it to Trump double time, whereas they were very willing to overlook what was going on in the Clinton administration and indeed when Clinton was the Secretary of State.
I'm not sure that's true, though, because as you'll recall, so sort of, first of all, the trouble is Mrs. Clinton lost the election and Mr. Trump is president. And given that that's the case, he has to take responsibility for sort of these things that are happening that are questionable, and questionable not only to Democrats but to members of his own party as well. And secondly, I'm not sure that that's the case, because I think people at reporters at the New York Times and the Washington Post and these sort of mainstream media outlets, as Mr. Trump would call them, did do quite a lot of reporting on Mrs. Clinton's contretemps, as I'm sure you might remember over the summer.
They did, but she got away with it in the end, didn't she? Nothing happened to her.
That's true. James Comey came out and said, "Look, we think she was very irresponsible, but it wasn't criminal." Right. And I think, and I think that's the sort of argument that Republicans are taking now with respect to Mr. Trump Jr. They're saying, well, the question is whether or not he did something criminal, whereas people on the other side will argue, well, regardless of whether or not it's criminal, it's certainly a breach of norms, and
that is the question, though, isn't it? Is it what is it a breach of, if in fact of anything, and is anything likely to happen here aside from another kind of 4 or 5 weeks of sort of headlines in newspapers that are already anti-Trump anyway?
Well, I think that's the question that several of the congressional committees that are investigating the Russian collusion, as well as the independent counsel through the Justice Department are investigating. And the problem for Mr. Trump Jr. Is that he's sort of exposed himself to sort of 3 different possible violations of laws. The first, which we talked about already, the fact that the law says you cannot solicit a foreign national or a foreign government for help in a campaign, for money or other contributions. The second is whether or not there was an attempt to cover this up, given that Mr. Trump Jr. gave several different explanations for the meetings that were inconsistent until finally the emails came out and revealed that he actually did know where the sources of this information was supposed to come from. That exposes him to questions of whether or not this was a conspiracy. And thirdly, if there was something said in the meeting that would have suggested to him or to his brother-in-law or to Mr. Manafort that these emails might have been, or these documents that the Russian source was purported to have might have been stolen, or if they had combined the information in some illicit manner, that also exposes him to questions of whether or not he is complicit in breaking security laws, computer hacking laws, that sort of thing. So that's a question that the special counsel will be asking, given that these emails and this conversation has emerged. And so all of the people who are involved will be expected to be answering some questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Bo, in a tumultuous year of politics on both sides of the Atlantic, we've got a Prime Minister now who started her period of office with a 24% positive rating and is now in negative territory. How's the Prez doing with the popularity polls?
Well, he's not doing very well historically, by historical standards. He does still have a stable of support from his base, a sort of third of the country who are very, very loyal to him. But he's doing much less well than any other president since polls have started at this point in his presidency. But I think sort of more worrying, or perhaps more to the point of the greater picture than just Mr. Trump's personal popularity, is that some of his sort of big ticket items that he's trying to pass are not doing so well. So, and this is a point of great frustration for Republicans, because having these sort of Russia issues are really not helping. The Senate, as you might know, is trying to pass a big bill, a new version of which is to be revealed tomorrow, to repeal Obamacare, which is a public health scheme that Mr. Trump and the Republicans have been promising to repeal for 7 years, and it's got only 17% support from the public. At a really crucial moment when Republicans on Capitol Hill are trying to pass a big ticket item, having these kinds of stories from the White House is really taking away from their time to be able to sort of sell this plan, and taking away from Mr. Trump's ability to sell this plan.
Yeah. Now, you've got a story this morning in the Times in which it says the FBI have been criticising Donald Trump Jr., saying that they really ought to have been told more about what happened with this Russian meeting earlier, and in fact he should never have had the meeting at all. But the problem is, as you and I both know, looking at the way that it's being covered by the media, and if you go to Fox News and you see the kind of things that Sean Hannity is saying and the kind of things that Trump has been saying to him, various other people like Mike Cernovich saying, was this actually a setup? Was in fact this woman who was supposedly coming from Russia purporting to represent the Russian government, not in fact anything to do with the Russian government, never going to give any information on Hillary Clinton, and bizarrely now even suggesting that maybe she was invited into Trump Tower in order for her to put a bug inside Trump Tower so that they could bug what was going on in Trump Tower for the Obama administration. I mean, it's all mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. But I think that that's part of the point that Christopher Wray, who is Mr. Trump's choice to head the FBI following James Comey, who, as you know, was fired back in May. That's sort of part of the point of what I think he was getting to in his testimony today when he was asked whether or not Mr. Trump Jr. should have called the FBI. And Mr. Wray sort of answered, well, this is the kind of thing that the FBI needs to know, so that when something like this happens, when there is suspicious activity concerning a foreign agent, there can be an investigation into it. And one of the sort of criticisms that's been floating around, even outside of what Mr. Wray has been talking about, is that there has been precedence for reporting suspicious activities during a campaign to the FBI. During the Bush-Gore campaign in 2000, the Gore campaign was sort of given this mysterious, from a mysterious source, the preparation material for Mr. Bush's campaign, or what he was doing to prepare for the debates, and they alerted the FBI. And this has been sort of cited as an example of sort of the right thing to do, the thing to do when you've got sort of a hot potato in your hands. And that's been the precedent in the past, and I think that's one of the reasons why people today are saying, look, this is sort of unprecedented and not quite the right thing to do. The right thing should have been to alert the FBI. And it seems that Mr. Trump's nominee to head the agency sort of agrees with that assessment.
It's a very bizarre situation. Paul, thanks very much indeed. Paul Deng. And we're not really any the wiser, I don't think, because the story's still developing. It's probably going to take another couple of weeks to kind of eke itself out. And to be honest, I think Trump is just going to continue running the White House in the way that he's been running it. And the son, Junior, who's being sort of made out to sound a bit like Fredo.
Yeah, that's right.
In the mafia.
That's right.
And that's actually Ivanka is more likely to be Michael Corleone.
That's right.
It's a far more interesting kind of sidebar to the whole
son's
thing.
been portrayed as a bit of a bungler, isn't he?
A bit of a bungler.
Yeah.
An absolute and utter idiot. Yeah. Which is probably quite close to the mark. But anyway, we'll be talking about it, I'm sure, for some time to come. This is Talk Sport. Porky Vision's coming next.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
This is Talk Sport. We've got a bit of a double Porky whammy coming up on the show tonight, because not only have we got Porky Vision right now, we've got Ask Porky coming up a little bit later. Got lots of great questions, but if you need to get one in, you know what to do. Tweet it at the Two Mics or look for us on Facebook. Porky, what have you been watching?
Well, I'll tell you what I've been watching, right? Because, I'm normally doing Poldark. I'm normally doing The Lock.
The Lock.
And they're all moving on.
They're getting very complicated, all those
very
shows,
complicated. I totally agree. The Lock I can barely understand now. I don't know who's supposed to have killed who and what the...
Well, it's another one where they're all guilty, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all guilty. The bloke who's still anchored to the bottom of the lock, who still hasn't been found and identified. And they've got his heart but nothing else,
Yeah.
And the lecturer in the lock will turn out to have been having, a bit of sort of Rogerisation with some of the pupils. That's undoubtedly going to happen, I think, if it hasn't already.
He's a bit of a nasty piece of work.
Yeah, nasty piece of work, that guy. So we get away from the lock. We get away from Poldark, because I'm afraid Poldark's become very predictable.
Has it?
Old Poldark breaks into prisons. Most people break out of prisons, but he keeps breaking in.
Right.
And to rescue his mate, the doctor. But on that mission, they lost his best friend, who got shot by the French troops.
Right.
So what's the point in going rescuing your doctor, mate?
Well, hang on. The guy got shot in France, didn't he?
He got shot in France on the mission to try and rescue the doctor.
Oh, I see.
So what's the point of taking your best mate along, getting him murdered, by the French?
Yes.
Careless. And then bringing home the doctor, who's half mad anyway.
The red... what were they called? The French sort of revolutionary soldiers?
What were they called?
Did they have a name?
The Garde.
Le Garde du Nord.
Le Garde du Nord. Yeah. But anyway, so I think I'd store away from that. So what I did today is I expanded my viewing tableau and decided on William Tell.
William Tell?
Right, now, go away with William Tell, because he lives in the land that he knows so well.
Is this an old show?
No, it's about 50 years old, and it's brilliant. It was on London Live, right, so...
London Live is so sort of bereft of any ideas that they're buying in some load of old rubbish.
Buying in this, I think it must be nearly...
Why don't they put us on?
Yeah, I don't know.
God's sake.
It must be nearly 60 years old. Yeah. And it starts with that Burke who's standing on the side of a Swedish hill with that huge long trumpet,
Oh, yeah.
Going...
Well, like an Alpenhorn.
Yeah, that's right, the Alpine horn. Right. So...
When I was in the old radio station in Edinburgh, we had some of these guys coming for the Edinburgh Festival. They came in with the Alpenhorns.
Really, yeah.
These huge things. And they stood in the studio and played them.
Brilliant.
It's quite good.
Anyway, to get the plot straight, what happens is... What the background to William Tell is that they all live in Switzerland, but they've been invaded by the Austrians, because the Austrians were part of the
Austro-Hungarian
Empire and all that kind of stuff, you know. So the Austrians are going around, you know, kicking the Swiss about. So William Tell is part of the resistance, right?
Yes.
So anyway, other members of the resistance come to him and say, "Oh, William, we have a spy in the camp and we're being betrayed."
Yeah.
He says, "Oh, this is terrible." You know, we find
Is there
out
anything about the apple and the kid and the apple on the head?
Well, that's in the opening. In the opening shots, you know, William Tell picks up his crossbow. They only used crossbows in those days, and bang, and shot the apple, and the kid starts smiling. "Oh, thank you, Daddy." You know, he was very, very close to having
not killing me.
His brain split in two. But anyway, what happens is it's so amateurish and funny. The four top members of the resistance go into a building which looks like a bar, and they go downstairs, right, and there's a huge barrel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anyway, they look around, and then on the barrel, they give it the secret knock, okay? And the secret knock goes like this.
Doesn't sound very secret.
No, here, listen. That's the secret knock, okay?
Is it? Okay.
So So anyway.
Yeah.
The barrel then turns out not to be a barrel, it's a secret room.
Right.
So the middle of the barrel opens up, you know, and they all go in and they shut the door. So they start sitting around this table saying, "We are being betrayed," you know, so we are being betrayed.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we can talk about it here because this is the most secure room in Vienna.
Okay.
Right?
That's
no,
good.
hang on, where are they?
What are they doing in Vienna?
No, sorry, that's right, not in
Should
Vienna.
they not be in Basel or something?
They're in Zurich.
Zurich?
Yeah, this
is the gnomes.
That's right, yeah. This is
That's good.
Yeah, this is the most secure room in Zurich.
Yes.
So as they're talking, believe it or not, there's a knock on the door.
What, a secret knock?
No, it's not the secret knock.
No.
Then what happens is they're all sitting there saying, "We're in the most secure room in Zurich. We'll be okay in here."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's just an ordinary knock on the door.
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, surely they shouldn't let the guy in.
Well, exactly. So one of them gets up and says, "Oh, we better find out who that is." You know, in the most secure room in Europe.
Yeah.
They open the door.
Wouldn't that be giving it away?
No, they open the door, and all the sheriff's men rush in with swords and start killing them all. You know, so it's a bit of a blunder opening the door in the first place, except for one.
Yeah.
Who miraculously...
And was William Tell in there?
William Tell wasn't in there,
okay,
no.
God for that.
Except for one who miraculously finds a huge vat of wine to jump into. Right, which he does, but then immerses himself in the wine.
Well, that's very hard to do.
Well, the killing goes on for about 5 minutes, I would say, you know, and arresting the other guys and all that. And then they look around and they say, "Right, is that all of them?" And they say, "Yeah." Well, there were 4 men in the room, and they've killed 2 and arrested 1. So nobody bothered to work out where the other guy was, but he'd spent 5 minutes immersed in a wine barrel. But when they disappear...
Simply when he came out, he was sozzled.
Well, he was still breathing, which is, ridiculous. But then they all go rushing off into the hills, right, to find the traitor. And they... did you know that all William Tell's people lived in caves?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there were caves in those days.
What, in Switzerland?
In Zurich.
Swiss caves?
Honestly, it was
Never knew that.
It was so funny. William Tell goes to, sort it all out. And he goes up to the, this party of guys like outlaws, and they say, "William Tell, fantastic to see you." Because William Tell's like a real national hero.
And then they sing the song, "William Tell, William Tell."
No, that's Robin Hood.
Dennis Moore, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Robin Hood. No, it's... Go away with William Tell, because he lives in the land that he knows so well.
That's right, yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think I used to watch this.
Yeah, I think when you're about 3, you will have watched it. So anyway, they say, "William Tell, as a mark of respect, you can have my cave."
Right.
So the top man gives him a cave.
Okay.
And by the way, William Tell is
who played? Is anybody recognisable playing these people?
Connor somebody or something.
Connor somebody.
But this is a great bit about it.
Yeah.
William Tell is not a lone fighter.
Yeah.
His wife goes with him everywhere.
Really?
He takes his wife to work.
Mrs. Tell.
Mrs. Tell, yeah. And they act like a sort of lovey-dovey couple were in the cave. But then when the old sheriff's men arrive again, the nasty Austrians, she picks up a sword and she's better swordsman than all the sheriff's men, you see. So they get on with it. Now, the strangest thing is, right, at the end of this episode, William Tell breaks into the castle to rescue somebody, okay? And he kills all the sheriff's men and all that, but the sheriff's still there, and he says, "I'll get you for this one day, Tell."
Yeah.
Right, so then that episode ends. So then the next episode opens, right?
You watched more than one of these.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And in the next episode,
right.
William Tell's breaking into another castle,
right.
but the first person he sees is the sheriff,
Same guy.
Same guy.
You sure this wasn't the same episode?
No. A few seconds later, I've seen the close of the episode,
Yeah.
and the sheriff said, "I'll never forget your face, Tell. I'll get you for this."
Right.
And the next episode, which must have been
Sure,
shown...
like Ralph McTell.
No. Which must have been shown in sequence all those days ago.
Yeah.
William Tell turns up at the new castle he's breaking into, pretending to be a workman with his tools.
Right.
And the sheriff says, "Oh, you're the workman, are you? Well, get on with it. I want my table fixed immediately." But he admits to recognise him as William Tell.
Right.
The great,
even though he said he'd never forget his face.
Exactly, the great freedom fighter. So
the worst thing about that is,
complete
in the old days, right, you'd have to wait a week from one to the next to realise what was going on.
That's
What
right.
an absolute shambles.
Yeah,
That was
shambles.
Porky Vision.
Shambles.
Ask Porky coming soon.
Shambles.
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics, and I've got a couple of announcements to make, a couple of shout-outs that people have asked for. Ben says, any chance of a birthday shout-out, please? I've turned 34 today. I listen to every podcast on my post round. Many thanks to you both, and it's from Ben.
Ben, the postie.
I think he's a Wolves fan.
34 years old today, Wolves fan. Have a great life, Ben. Last Sunday evening, we talked to a chap from your Communication Workers Union about the increasing number of dog attacks that posties are suffering these days, and we offer our wholehearted support to get some legislation involved to make people care for their dogs in a proper manner and not to attack postmen.
Absolutely right. And here's one from Ross, who says, on your show later today, which is obviously now, could you please wish my son Zach a happy 7th birthday, please, gentlemen? Because, of course, his dad's name is Ross and the boy's name is Zach.
Right,
Listens to the family show right here on the two mics.
Indeed. Well, 7-year-old Zach, I hope you have a great day, pal. I'm sure your mum and dad are going to, make sure that there's a bit of fun and excitement in the day. And, you enjoy it to the full. Have a great life, my boy.
Indeed. And there is one other, and I'm not sure if these are connected because, the guy who we've just wished a happy 34th birthday to is called Ben. This comes from a woman called Charisse, who says, could you please give a grumpy shout-out to my boyfriend Ben, who is 34 today. His pension plan came in today to help him plan for his Zimmer frame. Now, really? I wonder if that could be the same Ben.
Well, probably is.
Who's also 34.
There's not many people who are 34 and called Ben who have birthdays on the same day.
Are you sure?
We will say, Ben, not only are you going to have a great birthday and a great life, you appear to have a great woman behind you.
Yes.
Behind every man is a great woman.
That is generally speaking to be the case.
Well done for sending us the message.
By the way, speaking of ladies and gentlemen and all that kind of thing, did you know, for example, that the London Underground announcement system, when you're on the London Underground, are apparently going to phase out ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
In favour of what?
In favour of just gender-neutral announcements.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen.
So it won't be ladies and gentlemen anymore.
The next stop is Paddington Green.
It'll be welcome everyone and that kind of thing. They'll be saying, they'll be referring to people as everyone, just in case there are some people who might not wish to be proscribed as a lady or a gentleman.
Well, that would be about 0.1%. And wealthy society like ours, we have to help people who have problems in life. But I mean, to then suddenly change the whole of the structure of society for a tiny minority of people who need help and who will get it, but who have to be identified by the, what do they call them?
By the correct
the PC
title,
brigade and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're more important than us because they've got problems and the majority of us haven't. No, but the majority of us who haven't have to help those who have, and we can only do that if society is run accordingly. Now, I've got to tell you a story which is honestly remarkably prescient to my life.
Because I've got a good one for you as well.
Okay, good.
But, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, okay. Right, an Australian tourist plunged to his death while parasailing in Thailand as his wife filmed him. Roger John Hussey, 71, was swept high into the air.
Isn't it?
Yeah, swept high into the air as one of the Thai crew was fitting his harness at Kata Beach on the resort island of Phuket.
Oh, yeah.
He had been on holiday with his wife, who is Thai, and she filmed him preparing for the flight. Now, I tell a very funny story sometimes in our live shows where I'm actually waiting on this this pontoon, this platform floating out at sea, and what happens is this boat comes around, right? They pull the guy down who's on the end of the parachute. They take his harness off very quickly, and they whip it on you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying attention. I was
they've only got the harness and they're trying to hook something on you. Haven't they got like
it's
a
just
lead or something they hook onto you?
No, they just make sure that they get the harness on you so the boat doesn't have to slow down, you see. Because the whole purpose is that if the boat slows down, then there's no power and you're going to drop out of the air.
Right.
So on this occasion, I think I've told you about it, I wasn't paying attention and all of a sudden I was whipped into the water.
Well, you're not trying to attract the attention of a young woman.
I was giving the eye to a young lady and I didn't even... They do it so fast and they whipped it on. Before I knew it, I was being dragged and you're supposed to... run 3 or 4 paces and leap into the air to fill your parachute with air.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. The parachute went down. I was dragged through the water like a torpedo. I nearly drowned with so much water in my lungs. Fiasco. Now, what happened to this gentleman was exactly the opposite.
Right.
They put him in the harness and the boat never stopped accelerating, so he was picked up at maximum speed and instead of being dragged in like I was, there was still air in the parachute. He went up 150 feet and he went up so high and so quickly he somehow fell out of his harness.
So how did that happen and how did he go in the opposite direction to you?
Well, I can only assume it's wind, you know what I mean? And there was a lot more wind around on the day when he was doing it than I was doing it, but it shot him right up. And when he fell out, he fell into shallow water.
Ooh.
So he's stunned, and people on the beach ran to help to bring him ashore, but he died later in hospital.
Shocking
People have
story.
charged the boat operator with negligence resulting in death.
Yes.
The thing is, the reason why I'm telling you all this is that this chap, Mr. Hussey, businessman from Perth, so we would have talked to Sandra about it had she
from Perth,
been available.
Australia.
Yeah, but of course she's on a round-the-world trip.
She's on a round-the-world trip. That is horrendous, isn't it?
And this guy was a senior strategy consultant at KPMG and Deloitte, so very senior accountancy guy.
Yeah.
And what a terribly tragic end.
Indeed. Absolutely awful. But good that you managed to tell the story about yourself in the midst of it.
Well, I thought I should, yeah.
I've got a great piece here. Which will absolutely lay bare the problems that I have dealing with you.
Oh, yes?
Do you live or work with a narcissist?
Oh, that'd be ridiculous.
Is the headline which I'm looking at.
What's that got to do with me?
And they've got a mind doctor by the name of Dr. Max Pemberton.
Oh, yes.
In one of the newspapers here.
Oh, he's very well known.
He's very well known. Who has described you to an absolute... Who's described you to an absolute T.
Oh, yeah.
There are several headings, right? One is, always needs to be admired.
No.
Well, that's what you are.
No, ridiculous.
What, you say you don't need to be admired?
No, I can get on in life without being admired.
How about this? Arrogant and hypercritical. This is my favourite one, right?
Rubbish.
Believe there are special reasons making them different, better or more deserving than others. That's what you believe.
Absolute nonsense.
You do.
I'm not arrogant.
You think you're better or more deserving than others, don't you?
No, and I'm not.
When you say you're smarter than the average bear, what do you think that means?
Well, I think that means that I've got life weighed up pretty well. But it's a light-hearted reference to the fact that I think I'm ahead of the game.
You've admitted to this before.
That doesn't make me arrogant or big-headed.
You've admitted to this before that you resent the success of others.
Well, no, I don't resent the success of others. I take the success of others as a spur to myself to make sure I don't lose my grip and lose my pace.
No, but you don't like it. Have a fragile self-esteem, relying on others to recognise their worth and needs.
No, rubbish.
I would say that's true as well.
Rubbish.
And also feel upset if others ignore them and don't give them what they feel they deserve.
No. I don't seek attention. I quite like it when people ignore me, and let me just get on with my life. Okay?
You like it when people ignore you?
Yeah.
Okay. How about this? Enraged by other drivers, right?
Well, I do get enraged by bad driving, but everybody should.
Now, it says this, odd, eccentric and loners. Many of these people these words are used to describe the people who are a third group of personality disorders within the narcissistic group.
Are you mad?
Now, for example, you watch others closely looking for signs of betrayal or hostility.
Well, I do keep my eye on people around me because I do rate loyalty as a great attribute in life.
Do you bear grudges? Yes.
It depends.
I'll answer these for you.
Well, no, it depends. It depends what people have done to me. But if people let me down or are underhanded and cheating and thieving with me, I will seek revenge.
Find it difficult to brush off things that others say or do and dwell on them and get angry.
Well, sometimes, again, if somebody's being particularly difficult and obstreperous, then they need sorting out.
Okay. Now we'll move on because there's so much of this stuff which is absolutely spot on. Believe they may be psychic. Now this is great. You'll like this one.
Believe
right?
what?
Believe they may be psychic.
Well, I'm not psychic. I know I'm not psychic, but I can see Most people can see over the garden hedge. I do believe I can see over the Himalayas.
Do you sometimes hear voices or talk to yourself?
No, I do not.
Yes, you do.
Well, I sometimes, look, if I'm preparing something, people have accused me of talking to myself in the street, but I'm merely rehearsing a situation that's coming up.
Do you struggle to experience normal emotions? Yes.
Depends what normal emotions are, I suppose.
Well, you don't know what they are, do you?
No, well, of course I know what they are, but I mean, it's just...
Do you use odd or unusual words or phrases?
Well, I try to speak the English language as it was written by Shakespeare.
You've invented, not only do you use odd words, but you've actually got loads of other people using them as well.
Yes, well,
the Porky tribe have picked them all up.
I tend to lead on that point of view of explaining things graphically, like Bolloxios, like bladderation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Do you get anxious and paranoid in social situations?
Yes, I do sometimes because I don't...
So you are a narcissist?
No, I don't want to be there sometimes. I don't know why people force me into these situations.
It's game, set and match.
I do sometimes feel like, Roy, what's his name?
Roy, what's his name? Roy Hodgson?
Roy Hodgson.
Roy Hodgson?
I don't know what I'm doing here.
Okay.
I feel like that sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you behave in an eccentric way? I'll answer that.
No.
Yeah, of course you do.
Well, and how? What's eccentric?
Well, lots of things are eccentric.
What, eating fish fingers you think is eccentric?
I don't think eating fish fingers is eccentric, no. But I think putting butter on fish fingers is a bit odd.
Well, that's up to the individual, isn't it? People put butter on their sandwiches.
Now, how about this? Loved by the boss, but not colleagues.
No, that's not true at all. I'm certainly not loved by the boss, and I think...
Well, that's just here.
well, I suppose it depends who the boss is. But certainly, I expect a respectful relationship with my colleagues. Yeah.
Struggling to adapt or change?
No, I don't struggle to adapt or change. I welcome and embrace change all the time. I have done throughout my 40 years at the top in journalism.
At the top, behave judgmentally towards other people. That's definitely you.
Well, if people are messing around and not getting things right, then of course you have to be judgmental to make sure you keep them on the straight and narrow.
And what about this? Finally, because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
You find taking criticism very difficult.
Not at all.
Yes, you do.
I welcome criticism.
Do you? I must remember to bring some up then.
Criticism is the...
maybe we'll do that next.
Criticism is the
antithesis?
The antithesis of painkillers.
What?
You have to feel the pain to gain.
You don't think that's an eccentric thing to say?
No, I don't. No.
Really?
No.
Somebody once said to me on Twitter, and I think it's entirely correct, if you were taken to a mental asylum and you had to prove that you were not mental, you'd really struggle. You'd never get out.
Don't be ridiculous.
You'd never get out.
Yeah, don't be ridiculous.
They would never let you out.
Utter tosh. Bolloxios.
Not true. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
You had one eye in the mirror as you watched yourself go apart, and all the girls dreamed that they'd be your partner, they'd be your partner, and you're so vain. Probably think the song is about you. You're so vain. I bet you think the song is about you.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Ask Porky coming up very shortly. We're doing the Porky quiz, of course, tomorrow.
Yes, we
which
are.
I think has been predetermined to be on the Open, hasn't it?
It is definitely has. The Open
the golf,
starts,
which gets underway next week.
Yeah.
Now, You're So Vain, of course, we know probably was about Warren Beatty.
Yes.
Song by Carly Simon.
That's
what
right.
about Johnny Depp? Have you read this story about him this week, about the amount of money that he's suing his former manager for?
Yeah.
And he had this unsustainable lifestyle.
Right.
In which he was spending $2 million a month.
Yes, that's right,
including $30,000 just for wine.
That's right.
Incredible.
I think we have touched on that before, but now he's going back to the course to try and get the money back.
Well, the case is now actually ongoing.
Yeah, right.
Which is why it's been coming out in the press.
But I mean, honestly, how can anybody say I earn so much money that I'm unable to control the spending of it?
Yeah.
That's done by my advisors.
He's looking for $25 million in damages.
Well, everybody who does that deserves what they get, I'm afraid. You hand over your money. Do you remember a few years back, Sting was involved in some sort of case involving one of his people and didn't notice, I think it was Sting, if not, I apologise, Sting, £9 million going
Something like
missing.
that.
It was £9 million.
Yeah.
How would I know that had gone missing? I mean, in fairness,
I suppose if you don't trawl through your bank account,
well, exactly,
and you make an awful lot of money, you don't exactly know to the penny exactly what bank account is what. I mean, you still haven't found that 12 grand, have you?
No, although I'm sure that it will be found. That's not a problem. It's like a long-term bond or something.
No, but I mean, it's the equivalent of Sting losing 9 million, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it is, yeah. But you're absolutely right. I mean, for instance, if you are Elton John or Paul McCartney, whose wealths exceed hundreds of millions of pounds, if somebody did manage to milk you for 2.3 million quid, say, you know, on some sort of, I don't know, movement of money within your accounts and all that, how would you notice?
Yeah, because also you're busy, right? I mean, in Johnny Depp's case, right? Depp's purchases during this period of time included a 45-acre chateau in the south of France, a chain of islands in the Bahamas, a 150-foot luxury yacht, which I think he ended up reselling, didn't he?
Yes.
Artworks by Andy Warhol and Gustav Klimt, 70 collectible guitars, 40 full-time employees around the world, and my favourite, a specially made cannon that he used to blast the ashes of Hunter S. Thompson over Aspen, Colorado.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
You know,
it's mad spending, but it's his money. But, I mean, when you go through all these mad spending traits and then you say to yourself, well, it wasn't my fault, that can't hold any water in court, in my opinion, at all. It was your money you earned, and you're responsible for it.
But he gave these guys, Joel and Robert Mandel, 5% of his gross income. So presumably he was off filming Pirates of the Caribbean, or he was off romancing whoever it was he was romancing. And probably, as you can imagine, sometimes this happens. These guys ring up and go, Johnny, you know, we've spent this, can we have some more money? Or we're just going to move some money from here to there. He wouldn't have any idea what was going on.
I mean, I read that he'd earned about $230 million from his Hollywood films, so they get like $10 million of that alone, don't they? They're on 5% of that.
Yeah. Well, they made about $28 million.
Yeah, that's right.
Over the course of this period.
Yeah, so
which is extraordinary.
It's extraordinary amounts of money. And I tell you what was very interesting earlier on today. You're probably aware of this because Emma might have got onto it, your daughter.
Yeah.
One particular business has decided to go and base themselves in Berlin rather than London.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not saying that London's bad for business anymore. What they're saying is that the standard of accommodation their people would expect to be able to enjoy in a major city where they were posted to their office is no longer affordable in London, even for middle-ranking executives.
Right.
That you cannot afford to live anywhere in London. You've got to move right out into the suburbs because London's now become too expensive.
And you may not wish to do that.
No, so this company has moved to Berlin. I'm trying to remember who they are now. It's, I think it's one of the...
I saw a similar story about Frankfurt. About them moving to another place in Germany. But that was partly because it was to do with Brexit. And
well, this is nothing to do with Brexit.
Like the banking sector and the German bank and all that.
That's right. When I read it, I thought, oh, this must be another Brexit claim. You know, 'cause I think a lot of them are bogus. It was a bit like after 9/11. Everybody blamed the collapse of their business on 9/11.
Yeah.
Tina Brown had just brought out that magazine, do you remember, in New York?
Well, she was in charge of news.
No, she's founded one herself.
The Daily Beast, was it?
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, it could have been something like that.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, months after 9/11, I thought it was rather a cheap shot. Oh, well, of course, the magazine folded because of business confidence after 9/11.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with 9/11.
Yeah.
And Brexit will be blamed for many, many more things.
I'm sure it will.
But I'll find out who this company is. They said, look, London's fine for business. We don't have a problem at all. But it is now so expensive to live in London. We cannot provide the sort of lifestyle that our middle managers would require. Also, he said that you can't do things in London cheaply, like even go to the park because of the cost of ice creams, the cost of taxis to get there, you know, the cost of public transport. He said it's just not possible anymore.
So they're moving the whole company?
They're moving a division of the company to Berlin. They say Berlin is now, you know, kind of sort of bohemian.
Well, it's very trendy there, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And you know, what kept the Berlin economy stable was the merging of all the sides of Berlin.
Yeah.
Because you had one very wealthy quarter and three poor quarters.
Yes.
And so that's all still catching up, you know?
No, it is. There's some great restaurants, funnily enough, now being set up in the old part of East Berlin.
Oh, yeah.
Because East Berlin is still very much run down.
Oh, absolutely.
Compared to the West. And,
yeah.
I mean, what's his name? Rick Stein did a programme going to different sort of capital cities and finding these different places. There's an amazing place, which is a sort of nightclub stroke restaurant.
Yeah.
Where people actually make things on turntables for records.
Yes.
They put the plate on the turntable.
Yes.
And they make something, you know, they make sort of very pretty, you know, designs on the food.
Really, yeah.
Because the plate's going round and round and round.
Yeah, sounds like a pottery class.
Well, a bit like that. And they've also got very trendy nightclubs there that you can't get into.
Yes.
Unless there's something strange about you. But, it's
unless you're wearing...
unless you're wearing particular clothes,
or
certainly if you look too normal, you're not going to get in, let's put it that way.
That's right, yeah. A bit like Studio 54, perhaps, in the old days.
Well, I mean, Studio 54 was never that racy.
No.
I mean, you just have to be pretty wealtty.
Yeah, and famous, that's right, yeah. Now, what's the situation like in Qatar? Are they still under siege?
Well, I think there was a decision or a suggestion made, I should say, over in, I think it was the United States of America in the last week, basically saying that, they're trying to soften the approach of the others.
Yes.
They're basically saying, look, if we go in with Qatar, we will then try to persuade Saudi Arabia and some of the other countries who are against them to kind of come up with an agreement that we can all get along with.
Yes.
Because I think it was either Pence or somebody who's Trump's vice president who decided that actually we quite like Qatar.
Yeah, they did.
We've got an air base there.
They
and
did.
We're terribly sorry for saying that they're a terrible bunch of scumbags.
That's right,
It turns out that they've actually got an awful lot of investment in America.
That's right.
And I think also in the Trump business.
In the Trump business.
Yeah.
I'd look at a few facts about Qatar.
Yeah.
It's got the highest per capita income than any other country in the world except Liechtenstein.
Well, it's very small, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very small. And Liechtenstein, of course, is offshore banking, isn't it?
That's where Maxwell had his business.
That's where Maxwell had his business. Right. Yeah. They produce 283 barrels of crude oil, but 11 billion cubic feet of liquefied natural gas every day.
They also own half of Harrods, don't they? And half of the Shard.
Yeah, all of those sort of things, yeah. Before the discovery of oil in Qatar... The main industry was diving for pearl oysters.
Really?
Yeah, that's the only way people could earn money.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And only one in about...
So they've always had a sheikh-type family situation.
Yeah, always, yeah. But, I mean, when you're diving for pearl oysters, only about one in, 25 oysters have got a pearl in it.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, it's...
And you've got to go down rather far.
Eh?
You go down quite deep.
Now, it's traditional in Qatar to eat a large spoonful of honey at night and in the morning.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Why?
I don't know.
Why have you been reading all this about Qatar?
Well, because I've been trying
You're thinking of moving there?
No, I'm not, but I'm very worried about, my pal Richard Keys and Andy Gray, and I want to know, I want to see if they're going to be liberated.
You want to make sure you can rescue them.
Yes, absolutely. The only country with which Qatar has a land border, and I didn't know this, is Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
So it's no wonder they put the lock on them.
I thought you said that people would drive from Qatar to Dubai.
Yeah, they do.
Well, how do they get there if they're not bordering the place?
I don't know. They must drive through a bit of Saudi Arabia, I suppose, but they certainly do.
Sounds tricky.
It's half an hour. It does sound tricky. Now, the Emir of Qatar, who is Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, was born in Doha, right, which is
the big city in Qatar.
Well, it's the only city in Qatar. But he was educated. I love this. You see, the old, the British public school system. He was educated at Sherborne School. Went on
Dorset.
Went on to Harrow.
Yeah.
And then the Royal Military College at Sandhurst.
Of course.
Brilliant, okay?
Why wouldn't he be?
Now, there are more than 3 times as many men as women living in Qatar.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So women are in demand, big demand, okay?
Yeah. You've got to be a bit careful there.
You've got to be careful. The working week in Qatar begins on Sunday.
Right, have you seen the time, by the way?
The weekends are Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And 87% of the population of Qatar are immigrant workers.
Well, Friday's the holy day, isn't it?
Friday's the holy day.
So,
it's all good stuff, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, that would be the holy... That would be... It's all the workers that came in to build the football stadiums, that's what they do in Dubai, that's what they do in the UAE.
Right. That's right.
That's what they do everywhere.
It's a weird old setup, isn't it?
It is strange.
Yeah.
It is very odd. So how does this help Richard Keys?
Well, I need to be called like a spring to help Richard and Andy if they need to be sprung out of Qatar.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's good that you know so much about it.
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. If I know the local culture,
You could go in as a guest worker.
Something like that.
Smuggle them out.
Something like that.
Drive through Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
Coming up next, Ask Porky.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the...
We've got loads and loads of questions. So, as ever, I'm going to ask you to be as brief as you can be with each one.
Sure.
But as informative as well.
Yes.
Here's one from Deza, who says, what is the best natural cure for a headache? My wife is pregnant and can't drink or take medicine.
Yeah. The best natural cure for a headache is to lie down. Now, I don't get headaches. I'm very, very lucky. Even in my sort of prime drinking years, I never used to get hangovers or anything like that. However, I do find that headaches, usually speaking, are something to do with stress rather than anything else. I had an editor once who used to get headaches all the time because he kind of worked all day and used to take paracetamol all the time. but it was nothing to do with the paracetamol. It was due to the fact that he really tense all the time. And to get rid of a headache, you need to reduce the tension in your life.
OK. Dean says this. Porky, what position do you think Everton will now get with the return of Wayne Rooney? Will they finish in the league above where they did last season?
Well, I think Everton are genuine contenders for the Premier League title, and people will laugh at that and say, ho, ho, ho. But after Leicester won it 2 years ago, the mould was broken there. Everton are putting together a very, very competent squad of players. I certainly expect us to finish in the top 4.
Tim says, Porky, I'm moving back to the UK next week after 5 years in Dubai, and I'm a little apprehensive. Taxes, the shambolic government, Brexit, rain, the cold, people wearing rucksacks on the tube, cycle lanes, etc. Can you sell the UK to me?
Well, I'm full of all those anxieties as well. I suffer from anxiety disorder at the moment because every day I get up, I think, is the government going to collapse today? That would lead to economic chaos. It might lead to the prospect of a general election, Jeremy Corbyn becoming the first Marxist Prime Minister of this country, which would destroy the economy and reduce us to the state of Greece or Venezuela. So I have to say to you, come back by all means. It is the mother country, and it's always the country that will be, the country of my birth and my heart. But things could get very choppy very soon in this country. That's all I can tell you.
Tracy says this. Can you give me any help or advice? I would appreciate it, dealing with the bane of my life, which is mosquitoes.
Well, I can't really help you there, except get a mosquito spray, obviously. And remember, mosquitoes are very dangerous. Which part of the world is she contacting us from?
I think she's in this country.
Well, if you're in this country, I don't think you've got a huge mosquito problem. Get a mosquito spray. But I've never met anybody in this country who's actually been flawed, i.e. medically flawed by a mosquito. And neither do I know of anybody who has mosquito nets. So I would say it's a minimal problem.
BE says this. Dear Porky, if accused of being passive-aggressive, whatever that is, how should one respond? Should I punch their lights out? What would you do?
I would talk your way out of that situation and then log it in your little black book for revenge at a later date when you don't have to be passive or aggressive, just aggressive.
OK. How about this one from the Verminator, who says, Mr P, when you finally get to heaven, if you could take 3 things with you, what would they be? And why would journals have to be one of them?
Well, journals may be one of them. What I would take is, I would take an everlasting supply of Coronation Street episodes, i.e. in perpetuity. I would take my own English pub so that I could spend every lunchtime reading my journals in that pub, drinking English beer and eating fish and chips. And probably the third thing I would take with me would be those nearest and dearest to make sure that, again, for eternity, I was with the right people.
Indeed. Here's one from Weston who says, do you think both Murray and Djokovic need to use Porky's mantra of if you're not winning, you are not trying hard enough?
No, you certainly can't level that against Andy Murray. Nobody tries harder, nor has anybody ever tried harder to achieve that success in sport. A born winner because of his dedication to his craft and to his sport. I'm afraid it just was not his year.
Here's one from Pete, who says, I've just signed up for your fan club on the website and would like to ask Porky what the password is to the locked room. Which, of course, you have to find on the website, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can't tell you, and obviously there isn't a locked room in reality. This is for the purposes of joining us in the sort of Two Mikes family. All I would say is that it can only get better.
Duncan says this, Porky, I'm looking to buy a new car, either the F-Pace or a Range Rover Evoque Sport. Can you give me your expert decision, as I really don't know what to do?
Well, the F-Pace is clearly a very successful car. MG drives one, obviously. My brother-in-law and sister are just about to take delivery of one, so it's a car which everybody's endorsing. The Evoque I did look at momentarily, but then decided that as it was designed, apparently, by Victoria Beckham, it's probably a car made more for ladies. So I've turned that down in favour of another model.
OK. Here's one from Michael, who says, Dear Porky, me and a friend are flying from London to Belfast on the 30th to watch the Emirates Cup and have a good few hours to kill before the footy starts. Have you any recommendations on things? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Flying to London from Belfast.
Yes, flying to London from Belfast.
Emirates Cup is on here.
Yeah, the Emirates Cup's on here.
Have you any recommendations on things to do or see? Any advice would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, all I can say is you just can't go wrong in London. Go to any popular spot. Go to Covent Garden and you won't be short of 20 or 30 bars and restaurants or so. Go to Borough Market and you'll find exactly the same. There are so many locations in London where you can just have a great time. You know, go down to Fleet Street and drop down to the river and see all those lovely little pubs, you know, in the Middle Temple and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, it's endless.
Pierre says,
yeah.
Dear, and there's a few questions about the Beatles, actually, after that picture of the Beatles collection that you had last week.
Yes.
This is from Pierre. He says, Porky, as you are a leading authority on the Fab Four, who really was the fifth Beatle?
Well, there wasn't really a fifth Beatle. Until he died, Brian Epstein was the fifth Beatle because he set the whole thing up. He was incredibly incompetent in gathering in the revenues for Beatle memorabilia when they went to America, and they got ripped off terribly. But in terms of bringing them together and presenting their image around the world, he was the fifth Beatle. Now, George Martin was then said to have been the fifth Beatle because of his production skills, very similar to what Steve Lillywhite does for U2, you know. But really, the godfather of their production. And towards the end of his life, John Lennon got very annoyed that they referred to George Martin as the fifth Beatle. He said he was a producer. Name me one record that George Martin wrote or sung that got to the top. Go on, just name me one record. He didn't appreciate George Martin's, attachment as the fifth Beatle at all.
Although I suppose Sgt. Pepper, you might argue, was kind of conceived, wasn't it, by George Martin?
Well, he says not. He says he and Paul did that. He said they used to go to Paul's house in St John's Wood every night at about 6 and then not turn up at the recording studio till about 10, and they had it all planned out.
Sam says, I'm taking my daughter on a camper van road trip and plan to stop a night in Northumberland. Should I choose a Kielder Water or Hadrian's Wall?
Don't choose either. Go up to Bamborough Castle. It's a most spectacular site. The castle's right on the coast, and so it drops down to beaches, literally, and it's quite magnificent. Nothing wrong with a Kielder forest or dam, but, it all looks the same, really. And as for Hadrian's Wall, well, you've seen one wall, you've seen them all.
Not much to it.
I get to Bamborough Castle.
Martin says, where would Porky consider the best area of New York City to live? And why?
Midtown, because that's where I lived when I was there. So it's got lots of memories, and it's closer to the park than I could never get my head around living down in what's the name? In
Greenwich Village.
Greenwich Village. I just couldn't get it. Bohemian, I know, and people love living there, but I don't like low level. For me, the sheer glory and magnificence of Manhattan is its tall buildings, and Midtown was always my territory and always will be.
Lee's got a similarly New Yorky question.
Yep.
He says, do I buy a $20 ticket with the Great Unwashed just to secure one, or do I wait for the new VIP tickets to be released?
What are we talking about here?
Our show in New York.
Well, listen, it's entirely your choice. It'll be a great show anyway, whether you're on a $20 ticket or a VIP ticket, and the more of you who get there. The VIP thing means that we'll meet a lot of people, which would be great. We'd love to see you there. So it's of your choice, but, welcome. We're going to enjoy having you in the audience.
Mark says, Porky, I have a really bad sore throat and do not take over-the-counter medication or drink alcohol. Any home remedies you can recommend?
Well, I told you earlier, didn't I, in this show, that I thought I was getting a lump in my throat earlier, and I got very worried. So I took a Strepsil. And believe it or not, sucking one Strepsil removed all the symptoms of what I thought was going to be a difficult night.
That can numb it, can't it?
Yeah, so that's all I can tell you.
OK. Cameron says, Porky, I have a dilemma. How can I be sure when I close my fridge door at home, the interior light in the fridge goes off? Do I drill a small hole in the fridge and peek through the hole, or do I just assume it goes off when the door is closed? I don't like to assume.
No, it's one of life's...
It's taken a long time writing that.
Yeah, it's one of life's less important problems. It doesn't matter whether the light goes off or not. Of course it goes off because that's the way it's constructed. What you should be doing at this time of the year is more concerned that you've got your fridge at the right low temperature.
True.
And you have lowered the temperature, because if you don't, things like milk will only last a day if you don't get the temperature right in your fridge. So stop worrying about your light going off and start worrying about how cold it is.
John says this, with this butter shortage looming, is it best to go out and bulk buy butter?
Yeah, definitely. What's wrong with that? If there's butter on the shelves, get it in, and you'll be smarter than the average bear when everybody else is finding it difficult to get the butter on their cheese, ham and tomato sandwich.
Here's one from Claire, who says, can you ask Porky, after booking my holiday, I forgot I had VIP tickets for Mickey Flanagan that week. What shall I do?
I'm not a huge fan of Mickey Flanagan, but I know a lot of people are, and we promote him here on TalkSport sometimes. I would find the Mickey Flanagan fan club and offer them the tickets. Yeah.
Here's one from Adam. He says, I'm 27 today and a musician. Should I be worried?
About what?
I think about the fact that he's a musician, having reached the age of 27.
I have to say that my general thoughts are that if a footballer hasn't made it into the first team and is playing before the age of 21, he's probably missed the boat. As for musicians, I mean, traditionally the great musicians like Stevie Winwood, remember him, Traffic, like Eric Clapton, like the Rolling Stones, Jagger and Richards, like McCartney and Lennon, they all really started making music at the age of about 14, 15, 16. And even George Harrison was playing in the Beatles at 17, you know. So I do think that at 27 now, your chances of making your breakthrough are restricted. People don't want people of 27. They want little mix-type groups to come in and blow the world up again through youth.
Final question. Steve the cabbie says, after Porky's advice last week, we're getting ourselves a new dog, right? Because this was a guy who lost his dog, unfortunately.
Yes,
the dog died. He says, at the end of the month, any name suggestions from the great man?
Well, name suggestion for the dog.
Female dog.
Female dog, I would call her Lucy.
Lucy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, after
nice.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Yep.
Can't say fairer than that.
Can't.
That was Ask Porky.
It was.
The Two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Today you and I are not the same. You say you like the sun, I like the rain. So before we go do it all again, you better catch your own train.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. Hugh says this. Any chance of a birthday shout out? I'm 56. Never miss a podcast. That's from Hugh. He does a bit of writing. He's a big Arsenal fan.
Okay.
Does a bit of writing in his spare time.
Okay. Hugh the gunner and part-time writer.
Yes.
56 years of age. You're only just entering middle age, so don't even worry about it.
Absolutely right.
Happy birthday.
Now, we've got an interesting project coming up a little bit later on, aren't we? We're going to do, because of the fact that we are working on the live streaming of the show in New York.
Yes.
We're going to be recording some stuff later on in Soho.
We are indeed.
Which will be of some benefit to those people who have already signed up for the live stream. Because it means we're already going to give them a bunch of stuff before we go.
That's right, exactly. And at the moment, people who've signed up for the live stream are very grateful to you, but it's a bit of blind faith. We know that because you don't know what you're signing up for. Well, you will do by the weekend.
Yes.
Because we'll be doing some stuff to put onto the live stream just to give you an appetite and a taste for what's coming. Now, I want to talk to you, please, about... we have finished on that subject, haven't we?
Well, more or less, yeah. Although I've just got a correction on the 27-year-old musician.
Oh, yeah.
Lee says, I think you missed the boat on the musician question. I think you meant, should he be worried as all good musicians die at 27?
Oh, I see what you mean, like the Amy Winehouse.
Well, not
thing.
all good musicians die at 27.
No, they don't. No.
There's a small number of musicians who have been killed or found themselves dying at the age of 27 because of their own excesses.
Okay.
I don't think that's necessarily anything to worry about.
No, nothing to worry about at all.
No.
Now then, let me tell you this. This is very interesting. The young people in this country feel disenfranchised. We know that from the results of the last election.
That's what we keep hearing.
Yeah. And
do you not think they're just a bit spoiled?
Maybe, but, you know, they say we can't get on the property ladder, the fees for university are far too high, so Jeremy Corbyn says, don't worry, I'll scrap the fees and I'll make sure young people have an opportunity to, you know, have somewhere to live.
Yeah.
Now, I found another one here, and there's, without a shadow of a doubt, young people in this country are having a very difficult time compared to when you and I were young, right?
Yes.
Because this is the latest. Soaring costs are putting record numbers of young people off learning to drive, okay? In some areas of the country, 2/3 have decided to give up on getting behind the wheel. As little as a decade ago, the vast majority of youngsters would be itching to drive and wanted to learn as soon as they turned 17. Once they'd passed, they'd no longer have to rely on public transport or their parents. But the soaring insurance bills and driving tuition fees and the cost of vehicles have put driving out of the reach of many of those families are unable or willing to help foot the bills. The rise of Uber and its cheap cab fares has also increased the transport alternatives available to the young, especially if they're planning a night out that involves alcohol. Figures show that the number of 17-year-olds taking the driving test has fallen by 100,000 in the last 10 years.
Well, you know, they call this is what the problem is with so-called young people's problems, though. You know, they call that a problem. The fact that they didn't learn to drive when they were 17. The fact that they didn't get a car to drive around in. Well, tough luck, you know, get on with it. Yeah. Just deal with it without having a car.
No, I feel very sorry for them.
I didn't drive when I was 17.
I did. I couldn't wait to drive.
Yeah, but that's your experience. I didn't.
I failed my first driving test because I didn't take enough lessons and didn't get out on the road enough. But I passed my second. And then from that moment on, I was going to get myself a car.
Yeah.
Now, I did borrow my dad's car sometimes, but it was so tense between him and I, you know, don't scratch it, know, don't bring it home in any sort of state.
No, you couldn't just drive it over a roundabout or crash it into a tree.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is what you did later.
You know, you must be home by this time, you know, I've got to put it away in the garage. I said, well, why don't we just leave it on the street?
And you couldn't have one of your drunken mates throwing up in the back of it.
Well, exactly, all this kind of stuff. You know, don't do things in that car that I wouldn't do. Well, I was going to have sex with my girlfriend in the back seat of the car.
Shocking.
You know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff.
Too much information.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't, did you?
Sorry?
You didn't do
I
that,
can't
did
get
you?
into that. And all this kind of stuff. So I when I passed my driving test, I thought, next thing I've got to do is get a car.
Yes.
So, excuse me. So then I saved up for a year by working at the petrol station and bought myself a Vauxhall Viva.
Shifting the dodgy diesel.
Well, some of that happened, I'm afraid, yeah. I needed dosh.
How much did you pay for the Vauxhall Visa?
£295.
Okay.
Yeah. And
it was probably already second-hand, right?
Oh, it was well second-hand, yeah. It was a car registered in 1969.
How did you know it was worth buying? How did you know it was worth buying?
Well, I didn't, did I? But I didn't have any friends who were mechanics, so I went and looked at it, drove it round 3 times.
Yeah.
I thought it had 65,000 miles on the clock, which is standard for a second-hand car.
Quite a lot, though, in those days.
Well, it was standard, and I bought it, and it was brilliant. But the sheer joy of being able to drive is one of the things you start looking forward to when you're 16.
I suppose so. But maybe it's because I was living in London at the time.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
See,
Totally
I didn't need a car to get around London.
No.
Whereas if you live in a more rural area, you need a car.
Well, I needed a car to get out and about, to look like a big guy down Bridge Street in Chester, down Old Bridge Street, and also because, girls didn't always live in Chester. They lived up the Wirral or something like that,
Right.
I needed to get around.
Sure.
And
then you had to have money for petrol as well.
Well, yeah, this is the whole point, yeah. But, I mean, petrol was relatively cheap in those days. It was before the sort of explosion of Arab power in the Middle East, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you could get 3 gallons of 2-star petrol for £1.
Yes.
I mean, that's how cheap it was. So, and, a lot of my mates at school did. Some of them had parents who bought them, some of them had grandparents. We had one guy in my class, and unbelievable, on the day he was 17 and, like, a week later, he turned up for his A-level exams in a MGB midget.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the sports car of the day. You know what I mean? It was brand new.
Brand new, yeah.
It was
well,
unbelievable.
My daughter, who went to high school in America,
yeah.
I mean, you should see some of the cars these kids had. Because in America, you can get a car when you're 15. And when
15?
15. And you can get what they call a learner's license.
Yeah, sure.
Which allows you to drive on your own.
Yes.
But you have to have a special kind of L plate on the back.
Yeah, on the back of them.
And it's actually quite a good system because if you get done for speeding, they suspend your license.
Right. Okay.
If you get any kind of any kind of offence, drunk driving, anything like that, they suspend your license for like a year.
Yeah.
But I went to pick her up once from the high school, and her mother had bought her a car which was second-hand, like a Ford or something.
Yeah.
There were people there with brand-new Mercedes, Porsches,
really?
Jeeps.
Where was this? In Washington?
In Washington, D.C., yeah.
Crikey, yeah.
And people that, you couldn't believe the amount of brand-new, because it became a thing, that if you had a better car than the person next to you in the class, then that was one-upmanship.
Yeah, sure. But, I mean,
Incredible.
quite apart from anything else, I don't know how they afford insurance for those sort of cars. A kid at 17 driving a Mercedes, a Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think in America they maybe do it slightly differently. I'm not really sure how it works.
Yeah, that's right.
But you hear stories here of the same thing, don't you? You
Of course
can buy your son a car,
you can.
But you can't afford the insurance.
Well, I tell you what, I have a goddaughter, and she bought a car. She was at university in Exeter.
Yeah.
And she lived in Wiltshire.
Right.
So, how difficulty that is for, public transport, getting train here
nightmare.
and then changing train there, train. So she rang me up once and said she'd managed through a summer holiday job to raise enough money to buy a car.
Right.
It was only £700, so it wasn't much of a car.
No.
But it was all she wanted was a runaround, And I said, fine. She said, the problem is I've been quoted on the insurance £1,000 to drive a £700 car.
Yeah, right.
Because she's a student.
Yeah.
So I paid the insurance for a couple of years,
That's very kind of you.
just so she could get around.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the sort of cost that youngsters are facing these days. I feel very sorry for them.
Yeah, but I don't, because I mean, the point is that you have to deal with the slings and arrows that are thrown at you.
Yeah, okay.
You just have to deal with it.
Yeah. Now, do you know what I would do? And I'm going to suggest this to my local MP because I have a solution, a political solution.
Have you?
So youngsters can't get onto the property ladder. Yeah. They are enhanced with debt for studying and all this. They can't afford cars.
Yeah.
I would advocate now that every youngster between the age of 18 and 21 should be paid £100 a week wage by the state.
Why?
And they can spend it on what they want.
What?
They can spend it on what
Have
they
you gone
want.
mad?
No, because
do you know how much that would cost?
Yeah, I do.
How much?
Billions.
£100 a week?
Yes.
To how many people?
To everybody aged between 18 and 21.
How many are there?
Well, there's a few million of them.
Say there's 3 million.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think it's 4 million or something like that, okay? Now, the point is that you say, well, that's untenable, but it's not. Because, for instance, we all know that much of the outstanding £90 billion of debt owed to the country by students will never be paid.
That's £400 million a week.
Yeah.
That's what you want to pay?
Yes, I do, yes.
That's ridiculous.
No, it's not.
You've finally lost the plot.
No, I haven't lost the plot.
We haven't got any money.
Yeah, but
the country is already on its last legs.
I've just told you, we're not going to get £90 billion worth of student loans back anyway, right? They're going to be written off. So you might as well just be honest with the money and say, give it to them. That will be productive money. They will then spend that on trying to acquire a place on the property ladder.
What, with £100?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
No. Well, that's
mad.
That's £5,000 a year.
They can't. What are you going to do with £5,000?
Listen, this is on.
Have you ever tried to put money down on a house, right?
Yeah.
Without having any?
Yeah. Well, it's a start. It's a start.
No, they won't be able to get a mortgage, right?
It'll give them saving ambitions.
No, £5,000 would not buy you a hole in the wall.
I'm sorry, but you think of a better idea. I think we've got to treat the 18 to 21-year-olds as a disadvantaged minority in this country, which is what they are. Everybody else in the welfare state gets money.
No.
So why shouldn't youngsters at that age?
Yeah, but they don't get enough money to do anything with it.
Yeah, well,
they don't get enough money to do anything other than just about survive.
I think that when you think that bright kids can go to university and get themselves student loans, whereas children who are perceived,
stupid kids.
No. Perceived to be not as academically bright, but who have skills with their hands to become a carpenter, electrician, or something like that. Then they should be placed on a level playing field with the so-called academics.
There is no level playing field. What have you turned into some kind of mad socialist?
No. I'm trying to solve.
You want a level playing field. Guess what? There isn't a level playing field.
Look, Mr. Corbyn comes along and says, "Oh, don't worry, you don't have to pay your student loans anymore."
You sound like Corbyn. That's the kind of thing he would come up with.
No.
£400 million a week.
And then, don't worry, I'm going to give you everything, because we will. Well, somebody's got to make a stand and say, what are we going to do with our young people? They are a rebellious political army.
Well, you're just worried that they're going to vote for Corbyn, aren't you?
Well, of course I am, because Mr. Corbyn wants to introduce a Marxist...
which is what you're advocating.
No, I'm not.
You're advocating that those people who have more money than those who don't should give those who don't £100 a week.
Yeah, I am.
That's ridiculous.
I am. Well, I'm prepared to join in with that scheme, OK, because I want to
Well, where are you going to get the £400 million a week from?
I want to wrestle back the confidence of the...
Rubbish.
Well, so much money is wasted in this country. It becomes a part of the welfare state, and then you steer money from other parts of the welfare state towards those youngsters, OK?
Well, I could tell you some right horror stories about the way they run the school system in this country.
Well, I can tell some horror stories about the way they run the welfare state.
No, but you don't understand it from the inside. You don't understand it from the inside.
The NHS are paying £14 a tablet for tablets that are manufactured for 25p.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how much waste we have in our systems,
yeah,
right?
I know.
Unbelievable
maybe
waste.
They should buy the company that makes the tablets.
£13 billion of overseas aid.
For £400 million. Don't go on about overseas aid, it's boring.
Well,
£400 million, right?
To India,
a day,
who have their own space programme.
We're out of time.
Hey?
I think you should go into space programme. Why don't you send yourself up to Mars?
Why don't you rocket off? Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne, podcast from the two mics.
Do you get anxious and paranoid in social situations?
Yes, I do sometimes, because I don't...
So you are a narcissist?
No, I don't want to be there sometimes. I don't know why people force me into these situations.
It's game, set and match.
I do sometimes feel like, Roy, what's his name?
Roy, what's his name? Roy Hodgson?
Roy Hodgson.
Roy Hodgson?
I don't know what I'm doing here.
Okay.
I feel like that sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you behave in an eccentric way? I'll answer that.
No.
Yeah, of course you do.
Well, and how? What's eccentric?
Well, lots of things are eccentric.
What, eating fish fingers you think is eccentric?
I don't think eating fish fingers is eccentric, no. But I think putting butter on fish fingers is a bit odd.
Well, that's up to the individual, isn't it? People put butter on their sandwiches.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talk Sport.
Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Athletico Radio.
Talk Sport.
And anyway, they look around, and then on the barrel they give it the secret knock, OK? And the secret knock goes like this.
Doesn't sound very secret.
No, here, listen. That's the secret knock, OK?
Is it?